Chapter 35-39. It was definitely Yu Sang's biggest mistake to put the embodiment into this bloodlight array. He probably didn't expect that the embodiment could ignore all kinds of mysteries of the array and directly reach Yang Kai. This already belongs to the category of the space divine technique. How is it that not only is this human proficient in the space divine technique, but also this strange Holy Spirit is proficient in it? Is it really so strange? Yu Sang was puzzled. His mind was shaken, and the blood sea also rolled. Countless blood corpses were still appearing from the blood sea in all directions, but the strongest of these blood corpses was only at the level of a high-grade demon king, and there were only a few of them. The rest were at the level of a middle-grade or low-grade demon king. The true power of the blood corpses lay in their numbers. Anyone trapped in this bloodlight array would definitely be flustered as long as they were besieged by countless blood corpses. However, the embodiment was now a genuine half-saint, and these blood corpses at the level of a low-grade or mid-grade demon king couldn't do anything to him. After punching and kicking for a while, the blood corpses surrounded the blood fog and cleared the surroundings in the blink of an eye. The blood corpses didn't appear again. Yu Sang probably also realized that the current situation was not right, so he didn't want to make unnecessary sacrifices. Although he claimed that there were 8,000 blood corpses in this bloodlight array, according to the embodiment's killing speed, he probably couldn't do anything to others, even if all 8,000 blood corpses were killed. On the contrary, a violent sound came from the mountains and river's bell. Yang Kai didn't pay attention for a moment, and almost let him escape. Frightened, Yang Kai hurriedly urged the power of this ancient treasure to continue suppressing him. The embodiment looked at Yang Kai and immediately understood his current situation. He nodded slightly, and without any communication, Yang Kai understood his plan. The next moment, the embodiment stretched out his hand, and the demonic war hammer appeared in his hand. His figure flashed and rushed towards the mountains and river's bell. Yang Kai changed his hand seal, and a gap appeared in the suppressing aura. Yu Sang, who was trapped in the mountains and river's bell, keenly felt the change in the mountains and river's bell, and immediately turned into a bloody light, trying to get out. However, to his surprise, what greeted him was the Avatar's hammer. The Avatar's imposing aura that seemed capable of destroying the heavens and the earth pressed down upon him, and it caused Yu Sang to be shocked. He was like a frightened rabbit, and he hurriedly shrunk back. Taking advantage of this opportunity, the embodiment also plunged into the mountains and river's bell from below, and Yang Kai sealed the gap again. Soon fierce and terrifying sounds of fighting could be heard from the mountains and river's bell. Obviously, the embodiment and Yu Sang were fighting inside. Yang Kai made a series of hand seals, trying his best to maintain the mountains and river's bell's power, but his face was faintly bitter. There was no doubt about the power of the mountains and river's bell. After all, it was an ancient treasure used by the great emperors in the past. It could even suppress the existence of the phoenix real fire for tens of thousands of years, so suppressing a half-saint was naturally not a problem. However, the premise was that Yang Kai could display its full power. Yang Kai had obtained the mountains and river's bell for many years, but he was limited by his own cultivation, so he couldn't display the true power of the mountains and river's bell. He was able to trap Yu Sang just now, because he caught him off guard. If the embodiment hadn't arrived in time, then it wouldn't have taken long for him to escape. At present, the two half-saint were fighting with the mountains and river's bell as the battlefield. The aftermath of the fierce battle was shaking the surroundings. It wasn't any smaller than the commotion caused by Yu Sang inside. Yang Kai didn't know how long he could maintain this situation, even if he tried his best. Once he couldn't hold on, Yu Sang would be the first to escape. At that time, he could use the bloodlight spell array to turn the tables and regain the initiative. Yang Kai doubted that he and the embodiment wouldn't be a match for Yu Sang. Yu Sang was a veteran half-saint, so it wasn't so easy to deal with him. Now his only hope was that the embodiment could kill Yu Sang in the shortest time possible, or severely injure him. Only in this way could he have a hope of victory. What made Yang Kai even more anxious was Mingyu's current situation. When he rushed over from the valley, Mingyu was already severely injured. She was surrounded by countless half-saint, So he didn't know what kind of situation she was in now. This made him hate Yu Sang even more. If Yu Sang hadn't ambushed him halfway, how could he have been delayed? But now he couldn't ignore Yu Sang. If he didn't kill or severely injure Yu Sang, he wouldn't be able to break this bloodlight spell array, let alone rescue Mingyu. Rumbling sounds constantly came from the mountains and rivers bell. Yang Kai's emperor's chi burst out, and his mind was closely connected with the mountains and rivers bell. As the sounds came out, the patterns on the mountains and rivers bell also constantly flickered. The bell's body also became bigger and smaller from time to time, showing the intensity of the battle inside. In the beginning, a few blood corpses would occasionally jump out from the blood sea and interfere with Yang Kai, but they were all killed by him. As time passed, the blood corpses in the blood sea no longer appeared. It wasn't that the blood corpses were all dead, but that Yu Sang didn't have the time to control them. Although he was a veteran half-saint and had great strength, the mountains and rivers bell limited the scope of the battlefield, which made it very convenient for the embodiment to use the heaven-devouring Great Emperor battle method. Now that the embodiment even had a saint artifact in hand, how could Yu Sang block it? Just blocking the embodiment's terrifying attack had already exhausted all of his concentration. So how could he have any spare energy to control the blood corpses to cause trouble for Yang Kai? While the battle here was in full swing, the real main battlefield was also flowing with blood. Under the command of the half-saint, the demon race's phalanxes of 1 or 2 million rushed over from all directions and pounced on Mingyu. The moonlight was constantly blooming, and one army after another was wounded or disabled. The demon race suffered countless casualties. This scene looked like a group of ants besieging an elephant. The scene was comical, but the world was filled with an indescribable tragedy. It was said that many ants could kill an elephant, but that was under the premise that the elephant couldn't move. Even though Mingyu was seriously injured at this moment, it wasn't something that could be shaken by the demon race. The half-saint didn't expect the ordinary demon race to cause any new injuries to Mingyu. In a situation where the demon saint didn't interfere, they just wanted to use the power of their subordinates to exhaust Mingyu's energy. Every move Mingyu made would weaken a bit, and once it reached a certain limit, it would be time for the half-saint to make their move. 11 of the 12 demon saints' gazes were fixed on Mingyu. Only Yu Meng was looking into the distance with a frosty expression. Although her divine sense was powerful and could sense the situation on the other side, she didn't know the situation inside the blood sea. She only knew that Yang Kai plunged into the blood sea and fell into Yu Sang's trap. It wasn't until the embodiment in Zhui Feng also entered the blood sea that her worry eased a little. Others didn't know Yang Kai's details, but Yu Meng, who had been with Yang Kai in the star boundary for a long time, knew a lot about him. Yu Sang was in trouble. Yu Meng snorted coldly in her heart. This was really a case of being too smart for her own good. The betrayal of her subordinates was undoubtedly a blow to her prestige, but as long as Yang Kai could help her regain her face, her shaken prestige would be stabilized again. It's time to end it. After an unknown amount of time, Bailey Mo's voice suddenly sounded in Yu Meng's ears. Her tone wasn't very excited, but rather a little bleak. The fall of a great emperor is really spectacular. Yu Meng was startled. When she turned her head to look, she saw Mingyu standing alone in the void. Her figure was bleak, and the surrounding sky was clear. The ground beneath her feet was covered in corpses, and blood flowed like a river. Countless demon race members were buried here. The moonlight longsword in her hand was now dim, as if it could collapse at any time. The aura of the great emperors had long since disappeared. She was so weak that she looked like an old man on the verge of death. Even Mingyu's originally pitch-black hair was now white. Her original image of a handsome young man was gone. It was indeed time to end it. The demon territory had paid the price of hundreds of millions of lives to force a great emperor to this extent. It was time for the half-saint to truly step on the stage and compete. I wonder who will win this time. Shueli chuckled from the side. The half-step sages who had been watching Bright Moon nervously surrounded her again. Every one of them was extremely excited. In an instant, they surrounded Bright Moon so tightly that not even a drop of water could trickle through. Everyone looked at desolate infinity. The tall first demon saint slightly nodded with a dignified expression. In the next instant, hundreds of half-saints' figures flickered and rushed towards Mingyu like a pack of hungry wolves. In the center of the storm, Mingyu's expression was indifferent. She was still calm in the face of death, but there was a trace of indescribable exhaustion on her face. She slightly closed her eyes. The moonlight longsword in her hand trembled a few times before the light collapsed. Within the blood-light array, Yang Kai's whole body trembled. His face was as pale as paper, and golden blood continuously flowed out of his 7 orifices. Excessively using the power of the mountains and rivers Bell had overdrawn all of his strength. This affected his previous injuries, which weren't very serious, and made his situation even worse. There was nothing he could do. The Avatar and the 2 half-Saint Yusang were fighting to the death in the mountains and rivers Bell. The aftermath of the bombardment made the mountains and rivers Bell tremble, and even its owner was affected. However, he could only clench his teeth and forcibly hold on. Otherwise, once Yusang escaped, all of his efforts would be for naught. The feedback from the Avatar allowed Yang Kai to understand the situation in the mountains and rivers Bell immediately. Compared to himself, Yusang was also suffering. The narrow space forced him to face the Avatar's ferocious attacks head-on. The heaven-devouring Great Emperor's battle technique caused his momentum to drop continuously. On the contrary, the Avatar became more and more courageous as the battle went on. It seemed that the Avatar wanted to beat him to death here. Yusang was also a little flustered. He didn't expect that things would develop into such a situation. Compared to the suppression of the mountains and rivers Bell, he was more afraid of the Avatar. He didn't know what kind of evil technique this strange Holy Spirit practiced. It had the effect of plundering and devouring. It was simply the nemesis of his blood demon clan. Without the slightest hesitation, Yang Kai took a deep breath and threw a punch forward. Wherever the punch passed, the void collapsed. To Yang Kai's surprise, when Yang Kai threw this punch, Yusang, who had rushed in front of him, did not make any move to resist. Instead, he opened his arms and took the initiative to welcome the punch. There was a relieved smile on his face, and the murderous intention that had almost condensed into a substance also disappeared at this moment. Yang Kai's heart suddenly contracted. He instinctively felt that something was wrong, but it was too late to stop. With a cracking sound, the fist directly penetrated Yusang's chest, piercing through him. As the fist force exploded, it even blasted a hole in his chest. The fist force corroded his body, completely shattering his flesh and meridians. Kai Yang's expression was sluggish. He didn't feel the slightest bit of excitement from killing a powerful enemy. Instead, he felt an indescribable pain, as if an invisible hand was gripping his heart, as if it was his own body that was being crushed. He seemed to have done something wrong. Their eyes met. Yusang's expression was gentle as he said softly, "I'll leave everything to you." As his words fell, Yusang's appearance distorted and changed into the appearance of Mingyu, who was covered in wounds and bathed in blood. "Master!" Yang Kai gritted his teeth and shouted in a low voice, How did you? He could not accept the scene in front of him. The life of the great emperors of Mingyu had been ended by his own hands. His mind was in a mess and he could barely think. That punch had shattered all of Mingyu's vitality. There was no possibility of him surviving. The one he wanted to kill was Yusang, but he had ended Mingyu's life. It should not be difficult for a great emperor to deceive his perception and make him mistakenly think that he had seen Yusang. The killing intent that could almost pass off as real was also the key to forcing Yang Kai to act decisively. "This is what I wanted to see. The entire star boundary will thank you." Mingyu clearly understood Yang Kai's mood at the moment. He raised his hand and grabbed Yang Kai's wrist. He looked straight at him and said earnestly, "So don't feel guilty." At this moment, Yang Kai could not hear what Mingyu was saying. When he saw Mingyu's appearance, his mind was in chaos. An inexplicable power overflowed from Mingyu's body and flowed along his arm into Yang Kai's body, attacking his mind and internal organs. Finally, Yang Kai came back to his senses. The muscles on his face twitched uncontrollably. He wanted to pull his hand out of Mingyu's chest, but Mingyu held on tightly, making him unable to move. The Star Boundaries world will cannot be snatched away by the demon race. Mingyu gritted his teeth and shouted. Dark red blood flowed from the corner of his mouth, wetting the clothes on his chest. The warm blood flowed to Yang Kai's arm, burning like a soldering iron. Only you can bring this world will back. This is why Heaven's Revelations asked you to come to the demon territory. Yang Kai was startled. He once again recalled what Heaven's Revelations said to the great emperors. In the demon territory, you will have an opportunity and a calamity. He had never known where this opportunity and calamity should be. But now he finally understood. What could be greater than the world will of a great emperors? Did Heaven's Revelations already expect this? If so, he didn't ask him to come to the demon territory to rescue the great emperors Mingyu, but to receive the world will of Mingyu. However, if this opportunity came at the cost of the great emperor's life, then Yang Kai would rather do not want. In the blink of an eye, that mysterious power had already filled Kai Yang's entire body. This power didn't immediately make him stronger, but it gave him an indescribable feeling, causing his perception to become countless times sharper than before. Yang Kai knew that this should be the world will of the Star Boundaries world will. This seat is sorry. Mingyu squeezed out a smile at Yang Kai. But this seat has no other choice. Please don't hate me in the future. Although this opportunity was fought over by hundreds of half-saint of demon race, it was a huge burden for a human. After all, he had killed a great emperors with his own hands. This was an indelible fact. This was also the first great emperors to die in the hands of the emperor realm since ancient times. Rather than being killed by Yang Kai, it was better to say that Mingyu had fallen in the hands of Yang Kai. You should go. Mingyu's expression suddenly froze. Yu Sang was killed by him, and the bloodlight array also collapsed by itself. At this moment, when the blood sea collapsed, the figures of the half-saint who had chased after him appeared in all directions. Looking at the current situation of Yang Kai and Mingyu, many half-saint were dumbstruck. Soon after, they flew into a rage out of humiliation. They had paid such a huge price. Even 10 half-saint had died in Mingyu's hands. They had finally forced the great emperors of the Star Boundary into a desperate situation with great difficulty. They were just waiting to reap the fruits of their labor. Who would have thought that in the end, a human brat would take advantage of them? How could they tolerate this? The demon saint had said that no matter who killed Mingyu, they could snatch the world will from him. As long as they could withstand it, they would have a great chance of becoming the 13th demon saint of the demon territory in the future. This was the lifelong pursuit of all half-saint. The capacity of the bottle of heaven and earth was limited. The opportunity to reach the peak was close at hand. Even if they had to gamble with their lives, they wouldn't hesitate. But after getting angry, the half-saint sneered. A trifling mid-ranked demon king had obtained this opportunity. Was it really an opportunity? Without the protection of powerful strength, this opportunity would turn into a disaster. Compared to killing a great emperor who was on the brink of death, they were more willing to face a mid-ranked demon king. Their divine senses locked onto Yang Kai in an instant. The nearly 100 half-saint were unexpectedly quiet at this moment. No one took the initiative to attack. Instead, they vigilantly scanned their surroundings. Yang Kai wasn't in their eyes. The other half-saint were the real obstacles for them to reach the peak. At the center of the field, Yang Kai's expression was extremely solemn. After looking around, he found that Mingyu had already closed his eyes. His vitality had completely dissipated. Yang Kai stared blankly at her, his heart filled with pain. Before he could say goodbye to Mingyu, before he could say sorry, this great emperor had already fallen. Taking a deep breath, Yang Kai forcibly restrained his chaotic state of mind. Under everyone's gaze, he slowly withdrew his hand from Mingyu's chest. Then, he carefully put Mingyu's corpse into the sealed world bead and placed it next to the medicine garden. Yang Kai couldn't help but let out a long howl towards the sky. His howl gradually became louder and louder. It turned into a rolling dragon's roar that resounded through the world. With a neigh, as if it had been summoned, Zhui Feng's vigorous figure galloped over from the distance. In the blink of an eye, it had arrived in front of Kai Yang. Raising its front hooves, it almost stood up. When it came down again, Kai Yang had already flipped onto its back. Gently patting the mane on its neck, he whispered, "Run." Chapter 3541. The night was cool and the moon was bright. At the top of the mountain, above the palace, Star Soul Palace's Princess Lan Sun put her hands together and prayed piously to the bright moon in the sky, praying that her father could return safely. Almost every night, she would stand here for 2 to 3 hours, hoping that her sincerity would move the will of the heavens and earth and give her father enough protection. Heaven and earth seemed to hear her prayer, and the bright moon hanging in the sky suddenly became brighter. Soft moonlight sprinkled on the earth and spread over Lan Sun's body. It was like her father's big hand stroking her head when she was young, giving her a warm feeling. Lan Sun was stunned for a moment, thinking that she was hallucinating, but after careful observation, the bright moon in the sky was indeed much brighter than before. And this brightness continued to increase with the passage of time, making the whole world as bright as day. At the same time, all the creatures in the star boundary looked up at the bright moon in the sky that seemed to have turned into a sun against the full moon. The sparse stars in the sky were dim and lightless. Lan Sun's face suddenly became a little pale as inexplicable palpitations surged into her heart, making her feel confused. All of a sudden, a dazzling light blossomed from the sun. This kind of light lasted for the time it took to brew a cup of tea before it suddenly exploded and was annihilated. It was as if it had burned out the last of its brilliance and became incomparably dim. The entire moon seemed to be covered by a layer of black gauze. In the sky, meteors streaked across, and soon, the scattered meteors turned into a meteor shower that ran through the sky, followed by a sadness that pervaded the entire star boundary. The heavens and earth seemed to be crying. The bright moon was its eyes, and the falling meteors were its flowing tears. Dang dang dang. The heavy and melodious sound of a bell rang through the entire Star Soul Palace 9 times in a row. When the last bell rang, Lan Sun fell softly to the ground. "Your Highness!" the maid exclaimed and rushed over in a hurry. In the Heaven's Secret Valley, the great emperors Chu Tianji and the martial beast Emo Huang sat opposite each other, each holding a black and white chess piece. Emo Huang casually put down a chess piece and asked without lifting his eyes, "Why are you feeling uneasy?" During the game, Emo Huang clearly felt that his old friend was absent-minded, although his opponent concealed it very well. As one of the great emperors, how could Emo Huang not notice it? Chu Tianji's hand did not move for a long time, but he also did not make a sound. Suddenly, Emo Huang's heart trembled. He raised his eyes to look at him, and saw that Chu Tianji was also looking at him. Sigh! Chu Tianji let out a sigh. The white piece in his hand quietly fell onto the chessboard and rolled a few times. He raised his head and looked at the sky. There was a trace of unconcealable sadness on his face. "In the end, we still came to this step," Emo Huang said with a solemn expression. "Did I sense wrongly just now?" Chu Tianji bitterly smiled. "You didn't sense wrongly, neither did I." "Mingyue he left," Emo Huang said. "Didn't you say that he still had a chance to live?" Chu Tianji slowly shook his head. "Man proposes, God disposes. Who can clearly explain what happened in the territory of the demon race? Maybe only Young Boy knows what happened over there." "Is Young Boy in danger?" "Being in the territory of the demon race, how can there be no danger?" Seeing that Emo Huang's expression was not good, Chu Tianji said again, "Misfortune is a blessing in disguise. We can only wait and see. It's useless for you to worry." "Simply bastard." Emo Huang held back for a long time, but finally cursed out. He said with a sullen face, "Didn't you claim to be able to see the past and the future? Why didn't you expect this to happen?" Chu Tianji bitterly smiled and said, "If I was really so powerful, the passage between the two worlds would not have opened. But the silver lining is that although Mingyue left, he seems to have connected with Young Boy." Emo Huang was stunned for a moment, but soon understood what Chu Tianji meant. The great emperors had fallen, and there were strange phenomena in the heavens, but the capacity of the bottle of heaven and earth had not decreased, and the will of the heavens and earth did not show any signs of being plundered. This meant that Mingyue passed the most important thing to Yang Kai before she left. Otherwise, it would not just be strange phenomena in the heavens and earth, but various natural and man-made disasters. It could even lead to the collapse of one side of the world. After a long silence, Mo Huang sighed. We can wait and see. I'm afraid that someone is going to start a massacre. Chu Tianji slightly nodded and said, What's wrong with collecting some interest first? In the two-realm battlefield, after several years of tug-of-war, the demon race relied on their advantage in numbers to capture almost the entire Western territory. The allied forces of the Star World retreated again and again, and had already retreated to the edge of the Western territory. A few hundred li further back would be the territory of the Southern Territory. Once they crossed that line, it would mean that nearly a quarter of the Star World's territory had fallen. This was something that none of the humans could accept, nor could they accept. In the wilderness, tens of millions of lives of both the human and demon race were fighting to the death. Every moment, the light of life would be extinguished. Although the humans resisted with all their might, the demon race had an absolute advantage in terms of numbers. There was an endless stream of reinforcements coming from the rear. So from the very beginning, the humans had been retreating bit by bit. Although Li Wui, who was in charge of this battle, had outstanding individual strength, he was powerless to reverse the situation. He fought against 3 half-saint of demon race alone. And although his life was not in danger because of the space divine technique, it was difficult for him to do anything. Seeing the demon race's army rumbling over, Li Wui's expression was miserable. After today's battle, the Western Territory had completely fallen. Everyone knew that this result was not his fault, but since he was the supreme commander of the human side, he could not help but blame himself. Just as the human army was about to retreat to the border between the Southern Territory and the Western Territory, a shocking aura suddenly rushed over from the rear. This aura was so fast that Li Wui had only just noticed it when he caught a flash of a figure from the corner of his eye. This figure was wrapped in an icy chill. Immediately afterward, one of the 3 half-saint of the demon race who had been fighting with him suddenly froze. Li Wui looked over and saw that this guy had been grabbed by the neck by a figure who had suddenly appeared. The dignified half-saint of demon race was being held in the hand like a little chick, unable to resist at all. Looking at the heroic figure, Li Wui called out in a low voice, Iron Blood Master. He was puzzled. Why did this person come over? The demon saint of the territory and the great emperors of the star boundary had long since reached an agreement that neither side would interfere in this battle, so as to avoid the flames of war escalating too quickly. For so long, both the demon saint and the great emperors had strictly abided by this agreement and had never appeared on the battlefield. So when the Iron Blood Great Emperor, Zhan Wuhen, appeared on the battlefield and attacked a half-saint of demon race, Li Wui was very surprised. Could it be that the war had reached a point where the strongest combatants of both sides had to participate? If this was really the case, it would not be a good thing for the star boundary, but a bad thing. After all, the battlefield was in the star boundary. The confrontation between the great emperors and the demon saint was very likely to shatter the entire Western territory. Great emperors. The face of the half-saint who was lifted up by the neck by Zhan Wuhen turned red as he stared at the resolute face in front of him in disbelief. A thick murderous intent surged out from the man in front of him, causing him to tremble in fear. The big hand around his neck was like a clamp, squeezing his bones until they made cracking sounds. The aura of death enveloped him as the half-saint said in panic, You can't kill me. The demon saint master has an agreement with you. The Iron Blood Great Emperor's face was gloomy as he lifted the half-saint closer to him, stared into his eyes at a close distance, and said coldly, So what if I kill you? As soon as he finished speaking, he pushed his emperor chi and clenched his fist. The half-saint of demon race was like a smashed watermelon, directly exploding into a bloody mist, not even leaving behind a corpse. Li Wui couldn't help but widen his eyes. The other 2 half-saint of demon race were also stunned. He really killed him. No one had expected that the great emperors would suddenly appear on the battlefield at this time and kill a half-saint of demon race just because of a disagreement. Were they trying to break the agreement between them? Were the great emperors and the demon saint really going to step down from the stands and onto the battlefield? Without the slightest hesitation, Li Wui stretched out his hand and grabbed the other 2 half-saint of demon race. Under the fluctuations of the space principles, the void around the 2 half-saints suddenly became extremely heavy. These two reacted quickly. Seeing that their companion was killed, they immediately tried to escape, but Li Wui was even faster. This delay allowed the Iron Blood Great Emperor to rush in front of the other half-saint, and under the latter's terrified gaze, the Iron Blood Great Emperor smashed his body to pieces with a punch. Without stopping, the Iron Blood Great Emperor arrived in front of the third half-saint. With a slap, the half-saint's head and upper body disappeared, leaving only 2 legs standing in the air. In the blink of an eye, 3 half-saint of demon race had fallen. The Iron Blood Great Emperor didn't stop. His figure flickered, and he charged into the battlefield. Wherever he passed, the demon race was wiped out. Whether it was the low-level demon race cannon fodder, or the high-level demon king half-saint, they were all as fragile as paper in front of the Iron Blood Great Emperor. Li Wui stared at the Iron Blood Great Emperor's back in a daze. He had an extremely bad premonition in his heart. As one of the Great Emperors, the Iron Blood Great Emperor wouldn't go crazy for no reason. It was very likely that something big had happened that provoked him, causing him to act like this. Thinking about the heavenly anomaly from before, Li Wui felt a wave of sadness in his heart. However, as the commander of this battle, he quickly composed himself and ordered the human race army to pursue the demon race with the Iron Blood Great Emperor. One of the Great Emperors suddenly intervened in the battle, and the result was that the entire demon race army was wiped out. The battlefield was covered in the corpses of the demon race. The human race army pushed forward without encountering any decent resistance. All the demon race soldiers were scared out of their wits and didn't dare to stay. They only wanted to escape towards the passage between the 2 worlds. It wasn't until 10 days after the battle ended that the Iron Blood Great Emperor returned from the passage between the 2 worlds bathed in blood. Li Wui didn't know what he had done in these 10 days. But after that, the demon race had been peaceful for a long time. Counting the territory in the south that bordered the territory in the west, not a single demon race member could be seen within 200,000 kilometers. The areas that had previously been captured had also been recovered. Chapter 3542. In the Valley of the Eternal Heaven continent, the unconscious Li Shiqing slowly woke up. She looked left and right, but couldn't find any trace of Yang Kai. Instead, many members of the demon race gathered around the magic mirror left behind by Yu Meng. They were all nervously looking at the mirror. Rubbing her neck, Li Shiqing thought about what happened before she fainted. She vaguely remembered that she was knocked unconscious by Yang Kai. Oh right, the Great Emperors are in danger. With this thought, Li Shiqing completely woke up. But at this time, the members of the demon race gathered around the mirror suddenly exclaimed, as if they had seen an extremely incredible scene. Suspicious, Li Shiqing walked forward and looked into the magic mirror. With just a glance, her beautiful eyes instantly widened, and her delicate body trembled. In the mirror, there were 2 figures standing tall. Moreover, they were 2 figures that could be seen from a long distance. Even though they weren't very close, Li Shiqing could still recognize who the 2 figures were. One was Yang Kai, and the other was the Great Emperors of the Bright Moon. At this time, Yang Kai's fist had actually punched into the Great Emperors of the Bright Moon's chest, creating a huge hole in the Great Emperor's chest. Blood flowed out from the corners of the Great Emperor's mouth, and their originally white clothes were completely dyed red with blood. What happened while I was unconscious? Why did the final result turn out like this? Yang Kai actually killed one of the Great Emperors. This horrifying thought, and the shocking scene in front of her turned into an endless buzzing sound. Li Shiqing simply couldn't bear it. Her vision turned black and she fainted again. In the void, Yang Kai flipped onto Zhui Feng's back. When the neighing sound rang out, Zhui Feng carried Yang Kai and rushed toward the nearest realm gate. Golden flames ignited on its 4 hooves, leaving a mark in the void. Countless divine senses locked onto him, as wisps of murderous intent spread out. Even though Yang Kai knew that Yu Meng was on the Eternal Heaven continent, he still didn't feel the slightest sense of security. In this situation, Yu Meng was afraid that she wouldn't be able to protect herself. If she wanted to live, she would have to quickly escape. The further the better. It would be best if she could pass through the passage between the two worlds and escape back to the star boundary. The 12 demon saint of the devil territory, and even the great emperors of the night shadow realm, King Yi, were currently gathered on the eternal heaven continent. Therefore, the defenses on the passageway between the two realms were currently at their most lax. This was also the best opportunity for him to escape. He faintly regretted not bringing Li Shiqing into the sealed world beat ahead of time. If he escaped, Li Shiqing would definitely suffer. But at this time, he could no longer care about Li Shiqing. Comparatively speaking, the will of the great world was of the utmost importance. The will passed down to him by the great emperors Ming Yu could not be lost. Before the hundreds of half-saint in the surroundings could react, Wind-chasing wolf had already rushed out of the encirclement with Yang Kai on his back. This caused the half-saint to burn with anger as they chased after him with various means. However, Wind-chasing wolf's forte was his speed, so how could these half-saint catch up to him? From the beginning, the distance between them was rapidly increasing. Many demon saints' faces were gloomy, but Yu Ru Meng's expression was both pleasantly surprised and worried. Although she had always known that Yang Kai could accept the will of the star boundary more easily than the half-saint of the devil territory, because Yang Kai's strength was not enough, she had never thought of letting Yang Kai participate in this fight for the opportunity. However, what she did not expect was that Yang Kai would actually become the final winner. Moreover, it seemed that the great emperors Ming Yu had taken the initiative to deliver this opportunity to him. In comparison, Yu Sang, who was killed by Ming Yu, was no longer a big deal. In any case, Yu Sang had already defected to Xueli and could not be considered her subordinate, so it did not matter if he died. However, Yang Kai obtaining this opportunity was equivalent to taking a step forward on his future path. How could she not be happy? However, she was worried that this opportunity would not be so easy to protect. Sure enough, just as this thought surged in her mind, Xueli's angry roar rang in her ears. Bastard! After saying this guy actually turned into a bloody light and chased after Yang Kai. It seemed that he wanted to personally stop Yang Kai. He was not the only one. The other demon saint also moved and chased after Yang Kai. The half-saint could not catch up to Yang Kai, but that did not mean that the demon saint could not. Once these demon saint blocked Yang Kai's path, he would definitely be besieged by hundreds of half-saint. The final outcome was obvious. You dare! Yu Ru Meng was furious. She had just moved when a burly figure raised his hand and blocked her path. Yu Ru Meng looked ahead with a solemn expression and said in a deep voice, "Boss Huang, what is the meaning of this?" The person blocking her path was the number 1 demon saint in the demon territory, Huang Wuji. He raised his hand slightly and placed it in front of him. His movements were casual, but it was as if he had erected an iron wall in front of Yu Ru Meng. Even a demon saint like her would not be able to break through it easily. Huang Wuji looked in the direction that the figures had left and said indifferently, "Don't interfere in this matter." Yu Ru Meng gritted her teeth and said, "Yang Kai is one of my people. How can I not interfere? Moreover, we agreed before that we would not interfere in this opportunity, and that they would compete for it with their own abilities. No matter what the result is, no one can complain. What is the meaning of them chasing after him? Do they think that I, Yu Ru Meng, am easy to bully?" Huang Wuji said indifferently, "We did have an agreement before, but the target of the agreement was the half-saint under each of us. That boy is a human." After saying this, Huang Wuji turned his head and looked at Yu Ru Meng. "Those who are not of our race are bound to have different intentions. How can such an opportunity be handed over to him?" Yu Ru Meng said, "So what if he is a human? He has already betrayed the star boundary and has a demon in his heart. He has also made many contributions to the demon territory before. So why can't he get that opportunity?" Huang Wuji shook his head and said, "You know what we are worried about. Moreover, his strength is too low now, so what if he gets that opportunity?" Fortunately, he saw the opportunity early and immediately rode Jue Feng to escape. Otherwise, he would have already become a corpse. The impact of Ming Yu's death hadn't disappeared. After all, he had killed her with his own hands. Although that scene was deliberately created by Mingyu, the self-blame in his heart still made Yang Kai feel so depressed that he couldn't breathe. Zhui Feng's howl once again woke him up. Turning his head, Kai Yang saw a blood-red light on the horizon rushing towards him at a terrifying speed. In less than 10 breaths of time, it would be able to catch up. Xueli. Closely following behind Xueli was the feathered demon Hibiscus. With the fluttering of the pure white wings on her back, her speed was only slightly slower than Xueli's. At this moment of life and death, Yang Kai clenched his teeth and forced his mind to activate the law of space. He pressed one hand on Zhui Feng's back and broke through the void with him, instantly traveling 1,000 miles. When his figure reappeared, Yang Kai spat out a mouthful of blood. However, Yang Kai's appearance caused him to once again experience this kind of uncontrollable hot-bloodedness. During this chase, an hour passed by in the blink of an eye. Xueli gradually became flustered and exasperated. To think that he, a demon saint, had chased a middle-ranked demon king for such a long time, and still hadn't succeeded. It was truly embarrassing. But then again, half of the credit for Yang Kai being able to run so well was due to that bastard Zhui Feng. One ran like lightning, the other teleported. When these two worked together, it was really difficult to catch them. The half-saint had long since been left behind, leaving only the demon saint behind Yang Kai. However, as time passed, Yang Kai's situation became worse and worse. After all, although the Eternal Heaven continent wasn't small, there were more than a dozen demon saints chasing after him. As long as they cooperated with each other, it would be enough to surround Yang Kai. Yang Kai obviously also noticed this, but there was nothing he could do. An hour later, Zhui Feng finally stopped floating in the air, a bloody mist rising from its body as it snorted incessantly. Its skin had turned a deep red, as if it was burning hot iron. Yang Kai, who was riding on its back, also had a pale face and was gasping for breath. As he gasped for breath, blood constantly flowed from the corners of his mouth. It wasn't that Zhui Feng had run out of energy, but that the demon saint had already finished surrounding Yang Kai, blocking all of his escape routes. Numerous figures appeared in the surrounding space, and they were either gazing at him with interest or indifference. Xueli gritted his teeth and glared at Yang Kai resentfully. Run again. Why aren't you running anymore? Yang Kai turned his head and spat out a mouthful of blood with a rebellious expression. His cold gaze swept around, seriously looking at the faces of every demon saint, as if he wanted to imprint their appearances into his bones. Xueli pointed at him with a finger and said, "Boy, I'll make you beg for death." Yang Kai snorted coldly and turned to stare at him. "That will depend on whether you have the ability or not." Xueli laughed in anger. "You're still so stubborn even when you're about to die. Let's see how you cry later." Wobo laughed strangely at the side. "Why are you arguing with a child? Xueli, are you stupid? Even if you don't find it embarrassing, this noble one does. Can you shut up?" Xueli suddenly turned his head and glared at him. Wobo didn't back down and glared back. But at this time, Yang Kai suddenly opened his mouth and said, "Everyone, this young master will repay you 100-fold for what you've done today." When he said this, many demon saint looked at him suspiciously. In the next moment, the expressions of all the demon saint changed, and they all reached out to grab Yang Kai. Fuyu even locked onto Yang Kai with her divine thought. When she twisted her hand, a stream of light shot out. "Can't we say that the boy belongs to whoever catches him?" The demon saint wasn't interested in Yang Kai himself. What they were interested in was the will that belonged to Star Boundary in his body. As long as they could capture him and transfer that will to their half-saint subordinates, then they would very likely have another demon saint as an ally in the future. This was what attracted many demon saint the most. "Okay." Huang Wuji nodded. Xueli laughed strangely and turned into a bloody light to escape. His voice came from afar. "That boy is mine." Following closely behind him, the other demon saint also used escape techniques to leave. Before Bailey Emo left, she even looked at Yu Ru Meng provocatively. "Don't worry, little sister. If I find that boy, I'll definitely give him a quick death, so you just have to pray that I succeed." After she finished speaking, she covered her mouth and laughed. Chapter 3544. Yu Rumeng also wanted to leave, but she was stopped by Huang Wuji again. But this time, Huang Wuji's attitude was even more aggressive than before, and his expression had become extremely solemn. Seeing his expression, Yu Rumeng knew that he was serious. She was able to get rid of him just now because she made the first move, and because Huang Wuji didn't want to delay her for too long. However, a serious Huang Wuji was definitely not someone she could casually resist. 3 days after 3 days, I will let you go. Huang Wuji looked at Yu Rumeng indifferently. Before that, don't challenge my bottom line. Yu Rumeng coldly said. Do you think he can last for 3 days? With so many demon saint chasing after him, let alone 3 days, even 1 day would be enough. Yang Kai's current state was not very good. Huang Wuji lowered his eyes. That's not something I need to consider, and it's not something you can stop. I've already made myself very clear. If you insist on attacking, then don't blame me for being ruthless. Just as Yu Rumeng was about to make a move, her expression suddenly changed, and she turned to look at the realm gate, immediately revealing a look of surprise. Seeing her expression change, Huang Wuji couldn't help but frown and spread out his divine sense to investigate the realm gate. However, before he could figure it out, Yu Rumeng started to chuckle. All right, big boss Huang, I'll give you face. 3 days it is. After 3 days, if you still want to stop me, then don't blame little sister for turning hostile. While she was speaking, Huang Wuji had already investigated the situation at the realm gate, and couldn't help but raise his eyebrows, clicking his tongue. If he hadn't obtained an opportunity he shouldn't have, this senior would really be reluctant to let him die. His existence is really of great use to my demon territory. Yu Rumeng coldly snorted. Is there any point in saying this now? Weren't you the one who asked them to capture him? Huang Wuji's expression was as calm as an ancient well, remaining silent. When Yang Kai began to flee on Jue Feng, no one paid any attention to his embodiment. When Yang Kai lured all the half-saint away, his embodiment quietly sneaked into the ground and quickly fled towards the nearest realm gate. Although Yang Kai managed to shake off the half-saint, he was chased by the demon saint until he had nowhere to run and was eventually surrounded. It was a pity that the demon saint didn't know that he had the space spirit bead. With the help of the space spirit bead, Yang Kai instantly brought Windchaser to the side of the Dharmakaya. They were only 100,000 miles away from the world gate. The arrow that Fuyu shot out at the last moment did not do anything to him. Instead, it disappeared into a crack in the void. As soon as Yang Kai reunited with his embodiment, he put it back into the sealed world bead and rode Jue Feng towards the world gate. The demon race's army was still stationed at the world gate, but there was no sign of the half-saint. All the half-saint had gone to fight for the opportunity. Who would be in the mood to stay at the world gate? As such, Yang Kai easily broke through the blockade and escaped from the world gate. He arrived at a continent adjacent to the Eternal Heaven continent. He did not immediately flee. Instead, he turned around and searched for the world gate that connected to the Eternal Heaven continent. Under the fluctuations of the space principles, he directly sealed this world gate. He did not expect that his deliberate training on the 100-spirit continent would come in handy at this time. In this way, although he had delayed his escape a little, he could still cause a great disturbance to the devil saints who were chasing after him. Otherwise, if they really rushed out without any hindrance, Yang Kai could not guarantee that he could escape. As he spoke, he strode forward and arrived at the original location of the world gate. Flames burned on his fist as he punched the void. The flames exploded and the void trembled. A huge crack immediately appeared in the void that was originally empty. Seeing this scene, Crimson Flame sneered, and his other fist also blasted out with the force of thunder. After a few punches, the void in front of him shattered like a mirror. It completely collapsed, revealing a black hole the size of the world gate. However, what made Qi Yen speechless was that an extremely dangerous aura was transmitted from the black hole. The inside of the black hole was a chaotic void. When his divine sense probed inside, it was directly devoured. Qi Yen could not help but be speechless. Although he was a demon saint, he did not dare to rashly enter to investigate the situation. If he accidentally got lost inside, he might not be able to find a way out. His eyes turned, and he reached out to grab a few demon kings from below. He said, "Carefully investigate the situation inside, and see if you can find an exit. I'll report back." After speaking, he did not wait for the reactions of the demon kings. He directly threw them into the black hole. In the blink of an eye, the demon kings disappeared. Standing in place and waiting for about the time it takes for a stick of incense to burn, Qi Yan said with a cold face, "It looks like the world gate here is destroyed." If it hadn't been destroyed, one of the demon kings would have been able to find the exit, and it wouldn't have taken them too long to return and report. Until now, the demon kings were still nowhere to be seen, so they were probably dead. He also did not expect that after the world gate sealed by Yang Kai was forcefully broken, it would become like this. Yang Kai also could not have predicted this. He previously judged that if the world gate he sealed was forcefully broken, there would be two possibilities. The first was that the world gate would be revealed and return to normal. The second was that the world gate would be destroyed as well. The current situation was undoubtedly the second situation. Xueli laughed strangely. There are only two realm entrances left in the Eternal Heaven continent. This one can be considered to be destroyed. If he also seals the other one, doesn't that mean that we will all be trapped here by him? What a joke. As soon as she finished speaking, Fuyu had already turned around without saying a word. She quickly rushed towards the other remaining realm gate. Although Xueli's words were creepy, everyone knew that Yang Kai did not have the time to seal the last world gate. After all, the two world gates were connected to different continents. Since Yang Kai had already escaped, it was naturally more important for him to escape. How would he have the time to seal the second world gate on that continent? After Fuyu, the other demon saint also hurriedly moved. Half a day later, at the last world gate, many demon saint rushed out from the Eternal Heaven continent, all of them with heavy expressions. Everyone knew that after such a delay, it would be extremely difficult for them to find Yang Kai's tracks again. However, King Yi had already returned to guard the passage between the two world gates. That human brat would definitely not leave the demon territory. Rashly passing through the passage between the two world gates was just walking right into a trap. As long as that human brat did not leave the demon territory, there would be a day when he would reveal himself. However, in the current situation, there were not many places that the brat could hide. As long as they set up an ambush in a few places in advance, they might be able to catch a turtle in a jar. After exchanging glances for a while, the many demon saints scattered and ran in different directions, all of them heading towards the places they felt that Yang Kai was most likely to go. Halfway there, Bailey Mo's figure suddenly paused. Her beautiful eyes flashed a few times, and she lightly pursed her lips into a smile. She changed direction and rushed towards a certain direction. At the same time, Yang Kai was speeding at a high altitude of a certain continent. He held a map of the demon territory in his hand and checked his position. His original intention was to immediately think of a way to return to the Star Realm once he escaped, and complete the last wishes of the great emperors by bringing back the will of the Star Realm. However, when this thought popped up, an inexplicable chill appeared in his heart. It was as if he really did that, he would be walking right into a trap. After hesitating for a long time, he gritted his teeth and gave up on this idea. Chapter 3545. The demon saint must have expected that he wanted to return to the Star Realm, and there was only one passageway between the two realms. They only needed to set up defenses on that side to completely block his path. Yang Kai reckoned that a demon saint must have already gone to the passageway between the two realms. Although Windchaser was fast, he was not as fast as a demon saint. Since he could not go to the passageway between the two realms, there were only two places he could go. One was the 100 Spirit Continent. Rushing to the 100 Spirit Continent to seek protection from Chang Tian might be a way to survive. But Yang Kai did not know if Chang Tian could withstand the pressure from so many demon saint. Chang Tian did indeed value him very much. Because he did not have much time left in his life, he also wanted to nurture Yang Kai as his successor. However, If more than 10 demon saint joined forces to pressure him, Chang Tian might not completely fall out with them for him, leading to the destruction of the 100-spirit continent. For so many years, the reason why the 100-spirit continent was peaceful was because Chang Tian was not to be trifled with. He was powerful enough to make the great demon saints pay attention to him. Secondly, none of the great demon saints were willing to push Chang Tian into the arms of others. That was why the 100-spirit continent was able to survive in the cracks. But now, the qualification of the 13th demon saint was related to the interests of the entire demon territory. Many demon saints should be able to reach a consensus on this issue. What's more, it was not wise to entrust one's safety to others. He had not been in contact with Chang Tian for a long time, so he did not know this person very well. Therefore, this idea only appeared in Yang Kai's mind for a while before he immediately rejected it. The second place was Yu Ru Meng's territory. Although the conversation between Bai Liemo and Ming Yu had caused him to be a little wary of Yu Ru Meng, it was obvious that Yu Ru Meng had been very protective of him back in the Eternal Heaven continent. Therefore, it shouldn't be a big problem if he went to her place. The question was whether Yu Ru Meng could protect herself. After thinking about it, Yang Kai decided not to go to the 100-spirit continent or Yu Ru Meng's territory, but to find a continent that had disappeared. There were many continents that had disappeared in the demon territory, so he only needed to find one to hide from everyone. Now that the situation was tense, he only needed to hide there for 3 to 5 years. When the situation died down, he would be able to show himself again. At that time, it wouldn't be too late to find a way to return to the star boundary. After making up his mind, Yang Kai quickly checked the map in his hand. At the same time, he recalled all the information he had read about the various continents in the demon territory. After a while, Yang Kai confirmed his location and found the nearest continent that had disappeared. It was not too far away, and he only needed to pass through 2 realm gates to reach it. Just as he put away the map, Yang Kai's face suddenly turned cold. He reined in Windchaser, who was running at high speed. With a whoosh, Windchaser stopped in midair and snorted. His blood was boiling. Yang Kai's expression was extremely solemn. He turned his head and looked around, then said in a deep voice, "Which holy senior is here? Since you are here, just show yourself. Why are you sneaking around?" After speaking, he waited for a moment, but there was no response. Yang Kai sneered. "The opportunity of the great emperors is with me. If Holy Senior wants to take it, just do it. Are you afraid of me?" There was still no response. This made Yang Kai frown. He wondered if he had sensed wrongly. It didn't make sense. Just now, he clearly felt that he was being watched in the dark, and that feeling was very obvious. With his current cultivation and perception, it was absolutely impossible for him to be wrong. And the guy who could hide from his detection was definitely not an ordinary person. It was very likely that he was a demon saint. Since he was a demon saint, why didn't he show up? He wasn't a match for a demon saint right now. Hearing Yang Kai talk to himself, Windchaser couldn't help looking back at him. His eyes were filled with suspicion, as if he was asking if Yang Kai was an idiot. There was no one nearby, so who would he ask? At the same time, Kai Yang suddenly discovered that the feeling of being spied on had disappeared without a trace. This caused him to be at a loss. In his heart, he was wondering what had happened. Could it be that he had sensed wrongly? However, regardless of whether it was a demon saint secretly watching him or not, since the other party didn't show up, it meant that they didn't plan on making a move. This was a bit unreasonable. Without thinking too much, Yang Kai once again controlled Windchaser to fly towards the continent that had disappeared. At the same time, he stuffed a handful of spirit pills into his mouth and swallowed them. After passing through 2 world gates, just as he was about to reach his destination, Yang Kai's face couldn't help but darken. This was not a bad thing, but a good thing. He felt the aura in his body fluctuate. The bottleneck he had been stuck at for many years was finally loosening. He was actually showing signs of breaking through at this time. Yang Kai didn't know whether to laugh or cry. For so long, Yang Kai had been worrying about his second-order Emperor realm cultivation, especially after the War of the Two Realms broke out, and he entered the territory of the Become the Demon race. He always felt that his strength wasn't enough. Every time he faced a half-saint, he had the will, but he was powerless. He had always wondered when he would be able to make another breakthrough. But his cultivation hadn't shown any signs of improvement. It just had to be at this time. This was really an eventful time. Now, when he should be keeping a low profile and hiding his strength, who would have thought that he would show signs of breaking through at this time? Thinking about it, it wasn't strange. After accepting the opportunity of the great emperors and the world will of the star boundary, although it didn't significantly increase his strength, the hidden benefits were slowly erupting. The loosening of his cultivation bottleneck should be related to this. If he had a choice, Yang Kai would never choose to break through at this time. But when he tried to suppress it, who knew that the floating aura was like a spring? The more he tried to suppress it, the more it rebounded. It was as if it was determined to break through the barrier and soar into the sky, leaving Yang Kai speechless. He couldn't go to his original destination. Yang Kai's response was a series of attacks, and with just a few punches and kicks, the low-ranked Demon King was beaten to the ground. Yang Kai didn't waste time, and directly reached out to grab the Demon King's head, his divine sense pouring out like a tide, tearing apart the low-ranked Demon King's spiritual energy defenses, and planting a soul brand in its mind. When Yang Kai released his hand, the low-ranked Demon King still hadn't reacted. However, as soon as Yang Kai's divine sense moved, the Demon King's complexion changed greatly, and he looked at Yang Kai with a humiliated expression. "Who are you? What do you want?" For no reason at all, someone had planted a soul brand in their knowledge sea, and their life and death were under someone else's control. This was somewhat unacceptable for anyone, but the Demon King wasn't a fool and understood that Yang Kai definitely had a purpose for doing this. Yang Kai flipped his hand and took out the sealed world bead, saying indifferently, "Swallow this bead later, then go through the realm gate over there." Hearing this, the Demon King frowned. "What do you mean?" "Don't ask what you shouldn't ask, or else your life will be in danger." Yang Kai coldly snorted and threw the sealed world bead over. Chapter 3546. When the Demon King took the sealed world bead and looked up, he found that there was no one in front of him. He couldn't help but feel suspicious. If it weren't for the brand in his knowledge sea and the bead in his hand, he might have thought that he was hallucinating. He looked around, trying to find the trace of that guy from before. Immediately, an unbearable pain came from his mind, as if his soul was about to be torn apart. His heart trembled. He knew that even if that guy was hiding in the dark, he must have been observing him, and had the ability to kill him at any time. This must be a warning. What did he call him just now? Oh, swallow the bead and pass through the realm gate. Looking at the sealed world bead in his hand, the Demon King was distressed. This thing didn't look special, and he didn't know whether it was poisonous or not. He was filled with grief and indignation. He hadn't offended anyone, but disaster suddenly fell from the sky. Where could he go to reason? Even his knowledge sea had been implanted with the soul brand. Even if this bead was poisonous, he had to swallow it. Therefore, he only muttered to himself for a moment before swallowing the sealed world bead into his stomach. With a dark face, he rushed towards the realm gate. He had no choice but to go. There was clearly an aura in his knowledge sea that had locked onto his soul, and could destroy it at any time. Not long after, he arrived near the realm gate. Looking up, he saw that it was heavily guarded. The realm gate was surrounded by an army of demon race. Among them, the aura of many Demon King overflowed. They were strictly interrogating all passing demon race members. Only then did he understand why that brat had asked him to pass through the realm gate. It turned out that he had committed a crime. But what crime had he committed to actually mobilize so many master race beings to hunt him down? If it weren't for the trace of danger in his knowledge sea that could destroy his soul at any time, he would be very happy to report it. However, the aura that had locked onto his soul made him not dare to act rashly. He thought that as long as he passed through the realm gate, he would be able to see the world. At that time, no matter how powerful that brat was, he wouldn't be able to find him. After all, with so many soldiers guarding him, that brat couldn't possibly pass through the realm gate quietly. If he really had the ability, he wouldn't have forced him to do such a thing. He flew to the realm gate in fear and trepidation. Immediately, a demon general reached out and stopped him, saying coldly, "Stop. Where did you come from? Where are you going?" The Demon King squeezed out a smile and cupped his fists. He did not lie and carefully answered these questions. The demon general put away the painting and said indifferently, "If you see this person, report it immediately. If the news is confirmed to be correct, you will be rewarded with 100 myriad demon pills. If you can capture him, you'll be rewarded with 500 pills." Although he was a demon king, he was only a low-ranked demon king. He didn't live well on his own continent. He had only heard of myriad demon pills, and had never seen them before. If he was really given 100 myriad demon pills, it would be enough for him to cultivate to the level of a high-ranked demon king. But if he could capture that brat, he would be rewarded with 500 pills. What kind of concept was this? If he really had that many myriad demon pills, he wouldn't have to worry about the rest of his life. Only a demon saint could take out so many myriad demon pills at once. Even a half-saint wouldn't have the ability to do so. He couldn't help but swallow his saliva. He almost blurted out that he knew, but when he thought about his own life, he swallowed his words. Myriad demon pills were good, but he had to be alive to refine them. If he didn't even have his life, what was the point of having myriad demon pills? He carefully asked, "What did this brat do?" The demon general said, "He ruined the plans of the various Saint Venerables. Now the various Saint Venerables are working together to capture him." It was actually related to Saint Venerables, and it was related to many Saint Venerables. Hearing this, the Demon King couldn't help but sweat. He vaguely felt that he had been involved in a serious matter. Going forward, he went through a series of checks. Even his space ring was searched before he was allowed to pass. He secretly made up his mind. As soon as he passed through the realm gate and confirmed his safety, he would immediately find someone to send a message. He couldn't get the reward of 500 myriad demon pills, but he could at least get a reward of 100 pills, right? After a short while, he passed through the realm gate and arrived on another continent. He looked around furtively, then gritted his teeth and said, "I've finished what you asked me to do. Is there anything else?" The surroundings were completely silent. No one answered. "Ha ha. I knew that brat wouldn't be able to pass through the realm gate with me." The Demon King was overjoyed. After identifying the direction, he hurriedly rushed in a certain direction. His eyes were bloodshot, as if he could see 100 myriad demon pills waving at him. But at this moment, he felt a slight pain in his knowledge sea. He staggered and almost fell from the sky. After stabilizing his body, he looked left and right with cold sweat dripping down his forehead. Impossible, this is already another continent. How could that brat's methods still affect me? Could he be nearby? But that doesn't make sense. If he could really pass through the realm gate without anyone noticing, why would he need me to do all this? Just as he was feeling suspicious, the pain in his knowledge sea increased by a bit, scaring him so much that he hurriedly shouted, "I didn't expose your existence. Let's talk things over." As soon as his voice fell, the pain disappeared. But before he could catch his breath, the pain attacked him again. This cycle repeated many times. The Demon King was tormented until he was weak. He said with a sad face, "What do you want? Tell me, don't torture me like this anymore." No one would feel good walking on the edge of life and death. That kind of crisis where one's soul could be destroyed at any time was simply a kind of great suffering. But no matter how much he said, that brat didn't respond at all. After a long time, the Demon King's expression suddenly changed. He opened his mouth and spat out the bead he had swallowed before. There was a trace of surprise on his face. When the bead was spat out, a figure flashed in front of him. The person who had tortured him so much suddenly appeared in front of him. At this moment, Yang Kai also had a cold face. He snorted and said, "I thought you didn't understand. If this guy didn't spit out the sealed world bead, Yang Kai would have no choice but to break out of his body. At that time, the Demon King would die without a doubt." Saying so, he took back the sealed world bead. The Demon King stared at Yang Kai with wide eyes, then looked at the sealed world bead. He stammered, You. Yang Kai said with a straight face, You don't have to worry about my business. I need to go to the Cloud Shadow continent. Seeing that your performance just now was still so, you can take me there." Hearing this, the Demon King wailed in his heart. But under the eaves, he had no choice but to lower his head. The grievance in his heart was simply indescribable. Yang Kai ignored him, and directly threw out his tiger-headed chariot. He beckoned to the Demon King, and took the lead to get on. After the Demon King got on, Yang Kai had already set the route. Activating his Emperor Qi, the chariot turned into a stream of light, and sped off into the distance. With the experience of cooperating once, the following matters were much easier to handle. Every time they were near the realm gate, Yang Kai would hide in the sealed world bead, and let the Demon King swallow the sealed world bead. Then he would pass through the layers of barriers and enter another continent. When they arrived at a safe place, Yang Kai would come out and control the tiger-headed chariot to hurry on. In this way, although it wasted a lot of time, it was better in terms of safety. No one would have thought that Yang Kai would hide in a bead. Through the strict security of the demon race, Yu Meng might be able to see through this, but it was impossible for her to communicate with other demon saint. After 4 or 5 days, they finally arrived at Yu Meng's territory. Unlike the territories of other demon saint, the realm gates on the continents in Yu Meng's territory were not guarded. This was probably the only place in the entire demon race's territory that was not guarded. This made Yang Kai feel a little relieved. To him, Yu Meng was different from other demon saint. After a few more turns, they finally returned to the Cloud Shadow continent. "This is the Cloud Shadow continent. Lord Yang, I have fulfilled your request. Can you let me go?" After arriving at the Cloud Shadow continent, Huoluan looked at Yang Kai with a face full of hope. Although he knew that there was not much hope, he still had to fight for it. After a few days of interaction, although they did not have a deep understanding of each other, they at least knew each other's names. Yang Kai glanced at him and said indifferently, "Do you think it's possible?" Huoluan's face turned pale. He took a few steps back and said with grief and indignation, "Master, do you really want to kill me?" This was really an unexpected calamity. He was just on his way and did not offend anyone. But he actually had to face a life and death crisis. He was really unlucky. He secretly made up his mind that if Yang Kai really wanted him to die, he would first bite off a piece of Yang Kai's flesh. "That's not necessary. No matter what, you have helped me a lot. If I really kill you, it would seem that I am heartless. But I can't let you go." Yang Kai chuckled and raised the sealed world bead in his hand. "I think you have already guessed the use of this thing." Huoluan looked at the sealed world bead and nodded helplessly. In the past few days, Yang Kai had been coming in and out of the sealed world bead under his nose. Only a fool would not be able to guess the mysteries of the sealed world bead. This was definitely a treasure that could contain living things. "I'll give you a choice. Die or be taken in by me." Yang Kai stared at him. Huoluan's expression only hesitated for a moment before he smiled bitterly. "Do I have any other choice?" As he spoke, his whole body relaxed, and he looked like he had accepted his fate. "Wise!" Yang Kai reached out and grabbed him. Under the fluctuation of the space principles, he directly took him into the sealed world bead. Chapter 3547. He didn't kill Huoluan because of what Yang Kai had said. On the other hand, Yang Kai wanted to test whether the expanded space of the sealed world bead was suitable for the demon race to survive. The world inside the sealed world bead was now composed of 3 parts. The first part was the space of the sealed world bead itself. The second part was the 3 cultivation stars that the sealed world bead had swallowed in the territory of the Great Wilderness Star. And the third part was the missing continents that it had swallowed in the territory of the demon race. The first 2 parts had merged into one, while the last part was an independent existence. Although the missing continents had been reduced to fragments and the laws of heaven and earth were broken, after being swallowed by the sealed world bead, they showed signs of recombining. The broken laws of heaven and earth seemed to be gradually perfected. If the demon race could survive and even cultivate in it, it would be of great help to his next plan. Huoluan went to the newly expanded space. After doing this, Yang Kai hurriedly released the embodiment. He wanted to break through the shackles and advance to the next realm in Cloud Shadow. So he needed the help of the embodiment to cover up his movements. Otherwise, he would definitely be discovered. This was the main reason why he took the risk to return to Cloud Shadow. After so many days of delay, Yang Kai's injuries had healed, but his fluctuating qi was getting more and more out of control. It seemed that he had reached a limit. If Yang Kai hadn't tried his best to suppress it, he would have broken through halfway. Time waits for no man, and the breakthrough was now. But at this moment, Yang Kai's face suddenly turned cold. He turned his head and shouted angrily, "Who's there?" The embodiment, who was about to take him to a safe place, was startled. He quickly used his divine sense to check the surroundings. After a while, the embodiment turned his head to look at Yang Kai suspiciously. However, he saw that Yang Kai's face was extremely solemn, as if he was facing a great enemy. This made the embodiment a little confused. He asked in a low voice, "What's wrong?" Yang Kai's face was tense. He kept looking around and asked, "Didn't you find anything?" "Nothing." The embodiment shook his head. Yang Kai looked at it in astonishment and whispered, "How is this possible?" Just now, the feeling of being spied on appeared again. It was as if there was a pair of invisible eyes staring at him, which made his hair stand on end. When this feeling appeared a few days ago, Yang Kai thought that he had been targeted by a demon saint. But after a few days, there was no trace of a demon saint. Yang Kai was also somewhat confused about the situation. Until today, that feeling came again. It was definitely not an illusion. He was really being targeted. However, as the master of the Cloud Shadow continent, the Dharmakaya did not notice it at all. Yang Kai could not help but feel a little incredulous. Could it be that he had been too nervous recently, so his perception was wrong? After all, this was the Dharmakaya's territory. Even if there was a demon saint hiding nearby, it was impossible for him to not notice. If the embodiment was not his divided soul, Yang Kai was afraid that he would think that it was lying to him. Moreover, no matter which demon saint it was, there was no need to be so mysterious. Powerful strength was the capital to crush everything. It only needed to capture Yang Kai. There was no need to be so hesitant. While talking, that feeling suddenly and strangely disappeared. The embodiment said, "Did you really notice something?" Yang Kai was stunned for a moment, then slowly shook his head. "I can't tell. I don't know if it was an illusion or not." The embodiment was silent. In this situation, he did not know what to say. The breakthrough was imminent, so Yang Kai did not have the heart to care about other things. Even if there was a demon saint hiding nearby, if it really wanted to harm him, he would not be able to resist. At that time, he could only react to every move, and a higher level of cultivation would undoubtedly give him more hope of survival. "Let's start." Yang Kai swept away the messy thoughts in his mind and said in a deep voice. The embodiment nodded. Under the urging of the devil aura, it wrapped Yang Kai and took him down to the ground. Shuttling through the underground, there was no light at all, not even a sound. The whole world was silent. After an unknown amount of time, Yang Kai felt the pressure around him relax, and the devil aura that wrapped him withdrew. The embodiment's voice rang in his ears. "This is a karst cave 30,000 feet underground. With me protecting you, you should be able to suppress the movement of your breakthrough." Yang Kai used his full eyesight to look. Although the surroundings were dark, he could still vaguely see that this was indeed a huge karst cave. It was humid and dark, and he could faintly hear some sounds of flowing water. It was estimated that an underground river was flowing nearby. Although the conditions were not good, Yang Kai did not ask for too much. Taking a deep breath, Yang Kai sat down cross-legged. With a wave of his hand, batches of high-rank source crystals were thrown out of his space ring. The moment they were thrown out, they were crushed into powder. Rich world energy escaped from these source crystals and quickly filled the entire karst cave. The fog turned into dew, turning this damp and dark karst cave into a cultivation holy land in a very short time. In order to break through to the third layer Emperor realm, Yang Kai spared no effort. At this time, he was very glad that he had prepared enough cultivation resources before coming to the demon territory. Otherwise, He would not have been able to find abundant resources in this damned territory. But this was not the end. He reached out and took out a handful of spirit pills from his space ring and gulped them down to ensure that he had enough energy for his breakthrough. On the path of martial Tao, from the first order to the second order to the third order, and then to the false emperors and great emperors, every realm was a heavenly moat that blocked out batch after batch of talented cultivators. How many people had become the demon race while breaking through? How many had died while breaking through? Moreover, Yang Kai had chosen to break through in the demon territory, so he could not afford to be careless. With everything ready, Yang Kai immersed himself in his soul and silently circulated his secret art. He released the suppression he had been suppressing on his body, and his fluctuating aura immediately erupted. As his physique wriggled, his emperor chi surged, impacting the invisible barrier. Yang Kai could not help but let out a muffled groan as a tearing pain spread throughout his body, causing him to tremble like a sieve. Under the severe pain, sweat poured out all over his body, and in just an instant his clothes were soaked in sweat. The aura that had expanded to its limit slowly fell. The failure of this breakthrough did not discourage Yang Kai, although his previous breakthroughs were all natural, and there were few similar situations. Who could always have a smooth journey on the path of martial Tao? Who could advance triumphantly all the way? The great emperors and demon saint probably also had many setbacks when they were young. Today's setbacks would only strengthen the foundation for tomorrow. The pores all over his body relaxed as he swallowed the rich world energy around him. The medicinal efficacies also melted in his lower abdomen. His emperor chi flowed, and his momentum rose as he tried to break through the bottleneck again. Muffled groans continued to ring out in this dark and damp cave. The place where Yang Kai was sitting had become a wetland soaked in sweat. Yang Kai tried again and again, but failed again and again. Every time, the pain was heart-wrenching. His physique was ruptured, his meridians were severed, and golden blood flowed out of his pores. The embodiment, who had been paying attention to Yang Kai's movements, could not help but worry. It had accompanied Yang Kai throughout his growth. Ever since Yang Kai went to Shadowed Star, the embodiment had been born, but there had never been a time when Yang Kai's breakthrough was so difficult. However, at this time it could not help much. As the master of clouding, all it could provide was a safe place to break through and suppress the disturbance caused by Yang Kai's breakthrough. This kind of thing had to rely on Yang Kai himself. Compared to other people, Yang Kai's growth was too fast, and this rapid growth was bound to leave behind some hidden dangers. These hidden dangers were usually not obvious, but they would erupt at critical moments, such as now. Do you really not feel the slightest bit of guilt for killing this king? A familiar voice suddenly sounded in Yang Kai's ears. Yang Kai's expression became cold as he opened his eyes and found that he was no longer in the dark cave, but in the void, surrounded by a sea of blood. In front of him was a blood-soaked young man with a sarcastic smile on his face. Yang Kai's fist had smashed into this young man's chest, shattering his flesh and vitality. Mingyu, the great emperors. Yang Kai's eyes narrowed, and he immediately tried to pull his fist out of his chest, just like he did that day. But he didn't expect that Mingyu would grab his arm and hold on tightly. Her body leaned forward slightly, and her face became incomparably ferocious at this moment. I am the great emperor, and I represent the will of Star Boundary. How dare you kill me? Yang Kai's eyes bulged as he stared blankly ahead for a while before his face sank, and he gritted his teeth. Heart demon! The great emperors of Mingyu were already dead, and their corpses were placed in the medicine garden in the mysterious small world by him. So there was no reason for them to suddenly appear and recreate the scene from that day. The only explanation was that a heart demon had been born. These days, Yang Kai had been on the run, suppressing the guilt of personally killing one of the great emperors in his heart, deliberately forgetting it, deliberately not thinking about it, and the result of suppressing it was that a heart demon was born. On that day, in order to become the demon race's territory, in front of you Ru Meng, Yang Kai, and the Iron Blood Great Emperor, teamed up to act out a misfire and become the demon race, but he never expected that one day, he would really face such a crisis. If he didn't overcome his heart demon, everything would be for naught. At that time, forget about breaking through. It would be a miracle if his cultivation didn't fall. If things went wrong, he might really become the demon race, and become the demon race, not recognizing anyone. A huge sense of crisis enveloped Yang Kai, but he became calmer and calmer. Lowering his eyes, the black hair in front of his forehead casting a thick shadow, Yang Kai took a deep breath, raised his eyes, and looked straight into Mingyu's eyes, saying, "Yes, you are one of the great emperors, but you died at my hands. Of course I feel guilty for killing you." Opposite him, Mingyu smiled evilly. "Since you feel guilty, why force yourself? Why don't you accompany this queen? You won't be lonely on the road to the Yellow Springs." Yang Kai also grinned. "Master, do you really think so?" Mingyu's face turned cold. "You are a sinner of the star boundary. Do you still want to live in this world?" Chapter 3548. Yang Kai slowly shook his head and slowly pulled his arm out of Bright Moon's chest. But because of Bright Moon's obstruction, his movements were extremely slow. "I don't think I'm a sinner of star boundary. Master's words are wrong." Bright Moon sneered. "If you're not a sinner, are you a hero?" "I'm not a hero. After all, I did kill you. However, at the very least, I managed to protect the will of the star boundary from being taken away by the demon race. Sir, you perished in my hands. So, to be honest, even though I feel guilty, there was nothing I could do at that time." "Bullshit!" Bright Moon shouted with a ferocious expression. "You have the space divine technique, so you have the ability to take this king away, but you were unwilling to take the risk because of your own safety, causing this king to fall into the demon race's territory. You are a sinner of star boundary." "Master, you're joking." Yang Kai looked indifferent. "Although I have the space divine technique, my strength is low. With the demon saint in charge, how could I take you away? Giving up without even trying. You just want to be alone." Bright Moon's criticism became sharper and harsher, directly targeting the weakest part of Yang Kai's heart. Yang Kai couldn't help but be shocked, and his stable state of mind was almost disturbed. When he saw Bright Moon fall that day, he also asked himself why he didn't save Bright Moon earlier. If he had done it earlier, he might have had a chance, and he wouldn't have that regret that would be engraved in his life. Seeing Yang Kai painfully close his eyes, Bright Moon sneered. "What else do you have to say?" Yang Kai slowly opened his eyes. "I have nothing to say." Bright Moon smiled slightly and her figure fluttered. "Since that's the case, why struggle in pain? Why not follow your heart and let yourself be unrestrained? If Master's unrestrained freedom is to become the demon race, then I'm afraid I'll have to disappoint Master." Yang Kai looked at him indifferently and sighed. "Master, Junior's pain is because Star Boundary lost a great emperors, not because I couldn't save you. Junior's strength is low, and I really don't have the ability to save you." While speaking, he finally pulled his hand out of Bright Moon's chest and punched forward. "Sorry, Master." Bright Moon collapsed where his fist came from. After apologizing to Mingyu before she fell, Yang Kai's mood relaxed, and the regret in his heart was made up for. These days, he had also carefully considered whether there was a chance to rescue Mingyu when he first met her. But no matter how he thought about it, he couldn't find the slightest chance. The reason he could safely enter and exit the Sea of Blood was all because of Bright Moon. Without Bright Moon's interference, Xueli, who was overseeing the other side, would definitely discover his tracks at the first moment. Therefore, if he really did put Bright Moon into the sealed world bead, what awaited him would be the fury of a demon saint. At that time, not only would Bright Moon's situation become worse, even Yang Kai would be unlucky. The space spirit bead was a trick. He could leave a space spirit bead at the realm gate in advance. But what use was that? Whether it was the 12 Great Demon Formation, or the boundless sea of blood, formed by the blood sacrifice of the entire Eternal Heaven continent, they all had the power to seal the world. He couldn't use the space spirit bead to teleport in the Sea of Blood. One had to know that the embodiment was only able to use the space spirit bead to teleport to his side after Yu Sang placed it in his Sea of Blood. If Yu Sang hadn't been so careless and let the embodiment in Jue Feng in, Yang Kai wouldn't have been able to do anything to him. Therefore, even though Yang Kai felt guilty about Bright Moon's death, It wasn't to the extent that he would let his heart demon corrupt him. A vague and hoarse voice came out of the shadow's mouth, like the sound of rusty iron rubbing against each other, like a person who hadn't spoken for a long time suddenly speaking. Although these 3 words were uttered with great difficulty, it was obvious that they were filled with excitement. Yang Kai's face changed greatly as he narrowed his eyes at the shadow. This wasn't his heart demon. The so-called heart demon was just an illusory thing. It was a flaw in one's soul, and an obstacle to a cultivator's promotion. It was impossible for it to have its own thoughts, let alone speak. The shadow in front of him was obviously a strange creature. Yang Kai didn't even know how it got close to him, and the heart demon, just now, was probably its doing. At this moment, Yang Kai remembered the 2 times he felt like he was being spied on while he was escaping from the cloud shadow. Could it be that the one spying on him in the dark was this guy? Why didn't the embodiment notice it? Isn't it guarding me nearby? How could it let someone invade his knowledge see, and not have the slightest reaction? Who are you? Yang Kai asked with a sullen face. Soul. Warming. Lotus. The shadow ignored him, and continued to pay attention to the soul-warming lotus, the treasure of heaven and earth, as it repeated what it had just said. To be honest, Yang Kai was a little surprised that this guy could see the true form of the Rainbow Island at a glance. This wasn't the first time his knowledge sea had been invaded, and because of his previous experience, Yang Kai had the soul-warming lotus transform into the appearance of a small island to prevent others from seeing through it. Who would have thought that this shadow would be able to see through the mystery of it as soon as it came in? Its eyesight was quite sharp. I'll ask you one more time, who are you? Yang Kai shouted with a sullen face. He had already made up his mind to not let this guy leave. If the secret of the soul-warming lotus were to be exposed, those demon saint would spare no effort to hunt him down. Yang Kai's mood fluctuated, causing the seawater below to churn violently. The shadow still didn't respond, but instead turned into a streak of black light, and rushed directly towards the soul-warming lotus, as if the soul-warming lotus was extremely attractive to it, and it was determined to obtain it. Slash! Yang Kai pointed his finger, and sent out a wave of saber light. The soul-splitting saber was an emperor-grade soul-type artifact that had been nurtured in Yang Kai's knowledge sea for a long time. And in this strange place, the soul-splitting saber's power was undoubtedly maximized. The saber light was incredibly fast, and directly cut through the shadow's body, splitting it in 2. But before Yang Kai could celebrate, the shadow actually returned to its original state, and in the blink of an eye, appeared above the Rainbow Island. Yang Kai's eyes narrowed when he saw this. Taking a direct hit from the soul-splitting saber in his knowledge, sea was actually unscathed. What the hell was this thing? Seeing that the shadow was about to succeed, Yang Kai didn't dare to be negligent, and urged the power of the soul-warming lotus to its limits with his divine sense. In an instant, the rainbow brilliance of the Rainbow Island blossomed, and turned into an invisible barrier, blocking the shadow outside. The shadow attacked several times in a row, but still failed to break through the soul-warming lotus's defenses, so it continued to charge forward. Yang Kai stretched out his hand, and charged forward with the soul-splitting saber. With a single slash he cut it in half again. However, the shadow didn't care about him at all, as if it only had eyes for the soul-warming lotus, causing Yang Kai to laugh in anger. Eyeing his treasures in his own territory. Was this guy a robber? After struggling for a while, Yang Kai was a little speechless. He could tell that this damn thing didn't seem to have high sentience. Once it set its sights on something, it was determined to get it. Unfortunately, the soul-warming lotus's defenses weren't so easy to break through. The current situation was that this damn thing was persistent about the soul-warming lotus, but couldn't enter it. Yang Kai slashed it left and right with the soul-splitting saber, but although it was cut in half again and again, it would quickly recover, as if it had an immortal body. Yang Kai couldn't do anything to it. Things had fallen into an endless loop. However, Yang Kai was also somewhat relieved that this damn thing didn't have much sentience, otherwise, with its strength, it would have been difficult for him to deal with it. Yang Kai's expression changed as he quickly ordered the soul-devouring insects to retreat. At the same time, he stimulated the power of the soul-warming lotus, causing a 7-colored light to bloom and cover his entire knowledge sea. With a loud bang, the black shadow burst open, and as the black light spread out, many of the soul-devouring insects that couldn't retreat in time were turned to ash and dissipated. Yang Kai was also shaken to the core, his entire soul avatar on the verge of collapsing. At this moment, he was unable to think at all. After stabilizing his soul avatar with great difficulty and regaining his composure, Yang Kai was dumbfounded when he raised his head. He saw that in his sea of consciousness, there were a few more pitch-black marks, as if someone had sprinkled drops of pitch-black ink here. And the ink not only exuded an extremely strong demonic aura, but was also spreading in all directions at an extremely fast speed. This scene really scared Yang Kai out of his wits. Although he didn't know what the consequences would be if he allowed these black ink to spread, he could infer from the demonic chi that was escaping that he wouldn't have a good end. In a panic, Yang Kai hurriedly used his divine sense to try and stop it. But what made him despair was that as soon as his divine sense touched the ink, it was instantly assimilated, causing the demonic chi in his heart to rise. Above the 7-colored island, the light of purification bloomed, but even it was unable to stop the assimilation of the ink. After a moment of panic, Yang Kai watched as his knowledge sea was completely dyed black. Inside his knowledge sea, demonic chi was monstrous, and only the central area protected by the 7-colored soul-warming lotus was left as pure land. Yang Kai obviously felt some subtle and inexplicable changes in his mental state, but it hadn't reached the point where he would become the demon race, because he could still think normally and hadn't lost his mind. It could even be said that this current state not only didn't make him feel uncomfortable, but instead gave him a kind of indescribable pleasure. Have I really become the demon race? At the same time this thought appeared, another voice sounded in his mind. So what if I become the demon race? Yang Kai's knowledge sea tumbled again, but this time it wasn't because there was a problem with his knowledge sea, but because his physical body had changed. With a single thought, Yang Kai's soul avatar collapsed and his consciousness returned to his body, immediately feeling that his momentum had reached a new height. The surging power in his body was unprecedentedly strong, and all the obstacles and bottlenecks were not worth mentioning in front of this strength. Without any deliberate movements, Yang Kai allowed this momentum to rise, and when all the pain in his body suddenly disappeared at a certain moment, replaced by a comfortable feeling, an invisible wave of chi spread out with Yang Kai as the center, shaking the stone inside the cave until it fell. The door to a new realm slowly opened in front of Yang Kai, the Third Order Emperor realm. Upon seeing this, the Dharma body that had been guarding at the side hurriedly cast a spell to suppress the commotion caused by the breakthrough. Although this place was 30,000 meters underground, and even a demon saint might not be able to find it without a careful search, it was always better to be safe than sorry. With the embodiment's suppression, it could ensure that the movement here would not spread too far. However, when the embodiment looked at Yang Kai with a happy expression and was about to congratulate him on his successful breakthrough, it was surprised to find that the rising momentum in Yang Kai's body had not yet reached its limit. It seemed to be just the beginning, and it was still rising. The embodiment was stunned, not knowing what was going on. But what made it feel that something was wrong was that as Yang Kai's momentum rose, an incomparably powerful suction force came out of his body, crazily swallowing the surrounding world energy. The world energy in the cave was swallowed up in the blink of an eye, followed by the ubiquitous demonic chi in the world, drilling into Yang Kai's pores. In a very short time, Yang Kai's body was covered by a faint layer of black chi. The embodiment was shocked and hurriedly rushed forward. Yang Kai's state seemed to have become the demon race, because the embodiment had cultivated the heaven-devouring Great Emperor's battle technique, and its body was the stone mongoose. It could devour the demonic chi without any worries. However, Yang Kai was different. Yang Kai did not have the embodiment's various conveniences, so how could it end well for him to devour the surrounding demonic chi like this? Just as the embodiment was about to step forward to stop him, Yang Kai suddenly opened his eyes and glanced at it indifferently. The embodiment immediately stopped in its tracks. It actually saw a touch of indifference in Yang Kai's eyes, which made it a little flustered. It didn't know what had gone wrong with Yang Kai's breakthrough this time, to cause such a change to occur. However, the meaning of Yang Kai's words was also very obvious. Therefore, the embodiment only hesitated for a moment, then stood in place and quietly observed the changes. It was just a wisp of spirit, so how could it interfere with the behavior of the main soul? The wind whistled in the cave, which was the movement of the demonic qi in the world being swallowed. As time passed, the faint layer of black qi on Yang Kai's body became thicker and thicker, more and more demonic. Unlike the embodiment's worries, Yang Kai was enjoying his own state at the moment. He could clearly feel that his strength was becoming stronger little by little. Moreover, with the soul-warming lotus protecting the last pure land in his sea of consciousness, he did not completely fall into the risk of becoming the demon race. This time, I'm afraid it's a blessing in disguise. Just as he was thinking this, a sound came from the depths of his soul. Yang Kai frowned and carefully sensed it. Only then did he realize that there was a crack in the seal on his dantian. Ever since he cooperated with the Iron Blood to break the seal on dantian and released the ancient demonic qi, Yang Kai used the power of the Tsangshu to seal it. However, the consequence of unsealing it so many times was that the ancient devil's demonic qi that had been sealed had become increasingly large. If it were to happen again, the power of the ancient devil would not be able to seal it completely. Chapter 3550. Sensing this anomaly, the embodiment hurriedly took action to conceal the direction of the heavenly manifestation and demonic qi in order to prevent others from noticing. In the Karst cave 30,000 meters underground, Yang Kai's muffled roar resounded from the tumbling demon qi, like a wounded beast licking its wounds alone. When the roar entered the ears of the embodiment, it made his heart palpitate uneasily. At this point, it could no longer provide any help to Yang Kai. Yang Kai's current situation made it clear that he was on the verge of becoming the demon race. If he wanted to survive this disaster, he could only rely on himself. If he failed, everything would be for naught. This made the embodiment secretly anxious. The roar continued intermittently for an unknown amount of time, and Yang Kai's voice gradually became hoarse, as if his vocal cords were being torn apart. During this period of time, Yang Kai absorbed an unknown amount of demonic qi from the surrounding heaven and earth into his body. The massive amount of ancient demon qi sealed in his dantian was also released to its fullest extent, fusing with his physique and meridians. At a certain moment, Yang Kai suddenly opened his eyes. The world darkened. In this cave 100,000 meters underground, there was obviously no light, and it was pitch black. But the embodiment still felt like it was completely shrouded in darkness at that moment. It seemed that not only was his vision blocked, but even his divine sense could no longer detect anything. In the darkness, a ray of golden light was extremely conspicuous. The embodiment looked up and saw that this ray of golden light was actually a vertical golden line. As Yang Kai's embodiment, it naturally knew what this vertical golden line was. Demon Eye of Annihilation. This was the divine technique that Yang Kai had obtained from Tongxian realm. Yang Kai had relied on his Demon Eye of Annihilation many times to defeat powerful enemies and turn the tables on him. But this was not the main point. The main point was Yang Kai's other eye. Although it could not see anything, the embodiment could still feel that Yang Kai's other eye was also open, but it was completely dark at the moment. Ancient devil black eyes. The magical clone's eyes widened, and he felt as if his head had been hit by a sledgehammer. His mind was in a mess. The ancient demon's black pupil had always been a divine ability that Yang Kai could only use when he unlocked the seal on his dantian. As for the eternal darkness, once it was used, the world would turn dark. So how could it appear now? Could it be that the main body had completely become the demon race? At this moment, Yang Kai's roar turned into a long howl of pain. The embodiment's feeling was right. Both of his eyes were not in their normal state at this moment. The Demon Eye of Annihilation and Ancient Devil Black Pupil had been activated at the same time. The demon eye of annihilation in his left eye was fine, but the ancient devil black pupil in his right eye was burning with pain. Not only was the pain piercing his heart, but it was also constantly throbbing, as if it was going to jump out of his eye sockets. That kind of torment was simply unbearable. Under the throbbing, Yang Kai felt as if his 3 souls and 7 spirits were about to be shaken apart. He felt as if he would rather die than live. He clenched his teeth and persevered. The soul-warming lotus protected the last piece of pure land in his knowledge sea, preventing him from sinking into depravity and truly become the demon race. In this tenacious struggle against his own fate, Yang Kai's originally unstable aura gradually calmed down. As time passed, the throbbing of his right eye became smaller and smaller, and the tormenting pain also gradually lessened. Finally, all the pain disappeared, and the throbbing of his right eye stabilized. An indescribable feeling of comfort spread throughout his body, causing Yang Kai to let out a long sigh of relief. The pitch-black demonic qi in the karst cave rolled up and poured into his body like a receding tide, returning peace to this world that was 30,000 feet underground. Yang Kai sat cross-legged, breathing deeply. The aura of the third great emperor realm was obvious. The embodiment stood not far away, watching in a daze. Looking at the current situation, it also couldn't figure out whether Yang Kai had successfully passed the tribulation or completely become the demon race. But no matter what, the main body was still the main body, and it could never be separated from Yang Kai. As long as there was no danger to his life, the embodiment could accept any changes that Yang Kai made. After the time it took to burn a stick of incense, Yang Kai opened his eyes again. At this moment, the dark karst cave seemed to be overflowing with light. The embodiment hurriedly asked, "How is it?" Yang Kai stood up, moved his hands and feet, and felt the condition of his body. He scratched his chin and said, "It's hard to say." "What's hard to say?" The embodiment stared at him. Yang Kai said, "It's a long story. The breakthrough was a success, but I don't know what's going on with me now." The third great emperor realm was set in stone, but Yang Kai didn't know whether he had become the demon race or not. If he said that he had become the demon race, he didn't lose his mind, and his mind was clear. But if he said that he hadn't become the demon race, the nature of the emperor's qi in his body had undergone a tremendous change, and it had completely turned into demonic qi. After all, he had absorbed so much demonic qi during the breakthrough, and even the ancient demon demonic qi in the Dantian had been digested. The emperor's qi that he had painstakingly cultivated for many years had long been assimilated with it. After telling the embodiment what had happened in his current state, Yang Kai grinned and said, "Anyway, no matter what, I feel unprecedentedly happy now." The embodiment was a little speechless. Even the main body couldn't figure it out, so it was even more confused. After thinking about it, it said, "Then all of this is probably related to the black shadow that invaded your knowledge sea. Perhaps it was it that gave you the ability to merge with the demonic qi." Yang Kai nodded with a dignified expression. "I think so too, but we still need to investigate what the hell that black shadow was." If the black shadow hadn't contaminated his knowledge sea after it exploded, he probably wouldn't have been able to absorb the demonic qi into his body unharmed, let alone digest the huge ancient demon demonic qi sealed in the Dantian. Overall, although there were many unforeseen events during this breakthrough, the result was still quite satisfactory. They turned their heads to look at each other, and at the same time, their bodies surged with demon qi, and with a turn of their bodies, they used the divine technique to attack Bailey Mo. This time, they were going all out, not hoping to injure Bailey Mo, but just to buy some time so that they could escape. But after all, a demon saint was a demon saint. Facing the joint attack of Yang Kai and the embodiment, Bailey Mo's eyes were filled with contempt, and the corners of her mouth curved into a sarcastic smile. She stood in place without moving, and only slightly raised her hand and pressed the void. Yang Kai and the embodiment's figures, which were pouncing forward, seemed to have hit an invisible wall in an instant, and suddenly froze in place. Then a terrifying force attacked from the front, and almost at the same time, the two were sent flying backwards. In midair, The embodiment hurriedly tried to stabilize his body, but was unable to do so. Yang Kai spat out a mouthful of blood, and his face turned pale. Chapter 35:51. Falling heavily to the ground, he was battered and exhausted. Before Yang Kai could get up, Bailey Mo had already landed lightly in front of him and stepped on his chest. Her foot was as heavy as a mountain at this moment, causing Yang Kai to feel pain in his chest, making it difficult for him to breathe. Her enchanting body leaned forward slightly, revealing her white cleavage. Bailey Mo's expression was as cold as ice as she stared at Yang Kai. "What did you call me just now?" Yang Kai struggled a few times, but was unable to move. Opening his mouth, he spat out a mouthful of golden blood towards Bailey Mo. Bailey Mo tilted her head to avoid it, but in a fit of anger, she raised her foot and stomped down again. With a bang, Yang Kai's entire body sank into the ground, several of his ribs breaking as blood spurted from his mouth. "This is what happens when you have a dirty mouth," Bailey Mo said with a cold expression. "If you have the ability, then kill me." Yang Kai stared at her, his face filled with arrogance. Bailey Mo sneered, "Kill you? How could I bear to kill you? I still want to bring you back." Yang Kai had a part of the will of the star boundary. Whoever killed him would be able to obtain this opportunity. Even if Bailey Mo was angry, she couldn't really kill Yang Kai here. She could only bring Yang Kai back and let one of her half-saint subordinates do the deed. Any other demon saint would do the same. After saying that, she frowned. "Have you become the demon race?" When Yang Kai attacked just now, an extremely powerful and pure demonic chi burst out from his body. Although it was only for a short moment, how could it escape Bailey Mo's observation? She couldn't help feeling suspicious. Yang Kai didn't look like he had become the demon race, so why would he have demonic chi in his body? "It's none of your business." Yang Kai gritted his teeth and glared at her. "You better kill me now, or I'll kill you later." Bailey Mo giggled. "Your strength isn't high, but your ambition isn't small. I want to see how you'll kill this senior. However, I do have one thing I want to ask you. If you have something to say, then say it." Yang Kai's face was so cold that it could almost form ice. As he spoke, his mind was frantically trying to think of a way to get out of this predicament. His heart was filled with grief and indignation. He had finally broken through to the third stage Emperor realm and solved the hidden danger in his Dantian. But he hadn't expected to fall into Bailey Mo's hands before he could properly feel the increase in his strength. This was really an unlucky year. Bailey Mo seemed to have slowly gotten used to his vile attitude. She didn't take it to heart and said, "Boss Huang said before that unless you truly become a part of my demon race, no one will be able to protect you. Tell me honestly, have you turned into a demon?" "So what if I have?" Yang Kai raised his brow. Bailey Mo looked at him seriously, her brow wrinkling slightly as she exerted some force with her feet. "Urge your strength again." Yang Kai was silent for a moment before obediently urging his demonic chi. In an instant, pitch-black demonic chi surged out from his body and wrapped around him. But he didn't take this opportunity to attack Bailey Mo, because he knew he wasn't her opponent. Attacking her would only bring shame to himself. "You really have become the demon race." Bailey Mo's mouth was slightly agape, a look of surprise on her face. She couldn't understand how Yang Kai had become like this after not seeing him for only 10 or 20 days. In the current situation, Yang Kai could barely be considered a member of the demon race. Although he was born in the star boundary, since he had become the demon race, it was indisputable that he was a member of the demon race. "I'm really a little reluctant to kill you." Bailey Mo's brow wrinkled, as if she had encountered a huge problem. Not to mention Endless Wild's words, if she really brought Yang Kai back and let her half-saint subordinates kill him, it would be tantamount to slapping Endless Wild's face. There was no benefit in angering that guy. Yang Kai's strength was unique in the entire demon territory. It would be a pity to kill him. However, if she didn't kill Yang Kai, she wouldn't be able to use him. With Yu Ru Meng's heart seal secret technique, Yang Kai would only ever be loyal to Yu Ru Meng. This gave her a headache. Hearing her say this, Yang Kai also seemed to see a glimmer of light in the darkness. Rolling his eyes, he said, "Then perhaps we can sit down calmly and have a good talk." Bailey Mo sneered. Boy, what kind of tricks are you playing now? This sage is not you Ru Meng. I won't be deceived by your flowery words. I advise you to put away your little tricks, otherwise you'll suffer. Yang Kai grinned. In front of the holy sage, I wouldn't dare to have any tricks. Bailey Mo snorted. Now you're calling me holy sage? Why didn't you speak properly just now? That was then and this is now. Besides, I've worked with the holy sage before, we're not strangers. I have a little understanding of the holy sage's character. Are you trying to say that you know me very well? Bailey Mo sneered. I wouldn't dare. But compared to the other demon saint, the holy sage is much easier to get along with. If the holy sage is willing, I'm willing to listen to your orders. What about you Ru Meng? Bailey Mo's lips curled up. Yang Kai sighed. I'll explain to you Ru Meng. Bailey Mo snorted, obviously not believing Yang Kai's words. But so what if this boy was full of lies? If he really fell into her hands, wouldn't she slowly train him? With her ability, it was enough to make Yang Kai listen to her in a very short period of time. In the past she didn't want to offend you Ru Meng, but now this boy was worth it. Bailey Mo's thoughts ran wild. At this moment, a figure suddenly rushed out from the ground next to her, a pitch-black war hammer slamming towards her. It was the embodiment that had quietly sneaked up from the ground and launched a sneak attack. It was ignored when it was sent flying by Bailey Mo, so it naturally wouldn't abandon Yang Kai and run away. It quietly approached, and when it finally found an opportunity, it naturally went all out. When the war hammer slammed down, the heaven-devouring Great Emperor's battle technique was already activated. Get lost. Bailey Mo didn't even look at it, as if she had already expected it, and the silver hair behind her suddenly turned into a silver light that swept towards the embodiment. Wherever the silver hair passed, there was a bright silver light, and the territory of the heaven-devouring Great Emperor was shattered. The embodiment was hit hard, and after a slight pause in midair, it quickly turned into a small black dot and was sent flying like a meteor. The demon chi that was gushing out of its body was almost scattered at this moment. In front of Bailey Mo, the Dharma body with the strength of a half-step saint couldn't even withstand a single move. It was just like how Mingyu had killed a half-step saint devil with a single sword strike. If Bailey Mo wanted to, the Dharma body would have been reduced to fragments by now. But in the next moment, Bailey Mo suddenly felt a great sense of crisis enveloping her. When she looked up, she saw a cold light blooming in Yang Kai's hand and shooting towards her. Almost without hesitation, Bailey Mo pulled back, her beautiful eyes staring at the cold light, and her beautiful face turned pale as she screamed, Xianming Needle! How do you have the Xianming Needle? Yang Kai turned a deaf ear to her and rushed towards her. Under the dragon transformation secret technique, his hands turned into sharp dragon claws, and without the slightest bit of mercy, he directly grabbed at Bailey Mo's full breasts. He didn't know why Bailey Mo was so afraid of the Xianming Needle, but he could only think of this method to threaten her. Originally, Yang Kai was invited by Bailey Mo to go to Proud Snow Ice Palace to help her repair the World Gate, but was imprisoned by her in the ice prison. In the ice prison, Yang Kai met a young girl. That girl's memory was in a mess, and she couldn't even remember her name. So Yang Kai casually called her Miss Bing. Lady Bing vaguely remembered that she and Bailey Mo had a master and disciple relationship. Because she had made a big mistake, she had been locked up in the 18-layer ice prison by Bailey Mo. In the end, she had given Yang Kai a profound dark needle, which contained a forbidden technique she had created herself. Not too long ago, Yang Kai naturally remembered Miss Bing's words. She told him that the forbidden technique of the Xianming Needle couldn't kill Bailey Mo, but it could delay her for at least 3 breaths, and at most 10 breaths. This was the only thing Yang Kai had that could help him fight against Bailey Mo. The other divine technique was not worth mentioning in front of a saint master. However, the effect was somewhat beyond Yang Kai's expectations. When the Xianming Needle appeared, Yang Kai also saw Bailey Mo's reaction, and he could clearly see a trace of fear and hatred in her eyes. At this moment, Yang Kai faintly felt that things weren't as simple as he thought. Perhaps Miss Bing still had some secrets that she hadn't told him. But now that the arrow was on the bow, He didn't have the heart to care about anything else. He only hoped that he could borrow the power of the Xianming Needle's forbidden technique to do as Miss Bing had said. If he could really do that, he and the embodiment body might have a chance to escape. Bailey Mo's speed was extremely fast, and her figure was erratic, twisting and turning. She was indescribably agile and beautiful, but the Xianming Needle was like a maggot that refused to let go. Even a dignified demon saint couldn't shake it off. 3 breaths. In just 3 breaths, the Xianming Needle had already shot towards Bailey Mo. A trace of panic flashed across Bailey Mo's face, and immediately after, her devil chi shook, and a layer of protection appeared on the surface of her body. But it was meaningless. The Xianming Needle easily broke through the demon saint's protection and directly pierced into Bailey Mo's body. Bailey Mo's delicate body shook, as if someone had cast a spell on her, and she was frozen in place, unable to move. Her charming face was filled with disbelief. In the next moment, Yang Kai's dragon claw tore through her defense, and his hand pierced into her chest, grabbing her beating heart. He had succeeded. Yang Kai's eyes widened, as if he was in a dream. He really didn't expect that he would succeed so easily. Bailey Mo was a demon saint, one of the 12 strongest powerhouses in the entire demon territory, but she was actually restrained by the Xianming Needle. Didn't Miss Bing say that this thing could only delay her for a few breaths? Why was it so powerful? What was it that he didn't understand? Chapter 3552. With no time to think, Yang Kai exerted force in his hand and prepared to destroy Bailey Mo's demon heart. As a demon saint, she must have more than one demon heart. Even if he crushed it, it might not be enough to kill Bailey Mo, but at the very least, it would severely injure her yuan qi, making it easier for him and his embodiment to escape. Yang Kai had also thought it through. After crushing this demon heart, he would immediately escape with his embodiment, regardless of the torrential flood behind him. But at this moment, the spot where the Xianming Needle pierced into Bailey Mo's body suddenly released an invisible force. The force spread out in a circle, visible to the naked eye, and swept across 1,000 miles of land at an extremely fast speed. Yang Kai's movements suddenly froze, and he couldn't muster any strength in his body. His soul was in turmoil, and showed signs of flying out of his body. At this moment he was scared out of his wits, and no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't stabilize his soul. His vision blurred, and the whole world changed drastically. As far as the eye could see, the entire world was covered in white snow, and the cold wind was howling. All around him were large and small ice mountains, all of them crystal clear. Snowflakes the size of goose feathers were constantly falling from the sky, and when they landed on his body, Yang Kai couldn't help but shiver. Bailey Mo, who should have been in front of him, and had her chest pierced by his dragon claws, was nowhere to be seen. Instead, she appeared on top of an ice pillar 100 feet away. She stood there beautifully, her silver hair fluttering behind her, like a small flower blooming in this icy world. But at this moment, Bailey Mo's expression was full of resentment, and she was staring in his direction, gnashing her teeth. Yang Kai frowned, obviously feeling that something was wrong with his situation. He carefully checked his body, and was surprised to find that he was in the state of a soul avatar. In other words, he was in this world, not a physical body, but a soul avatar. It was the same for Bailey Mo. Both of their physical bodies should still be somewhere in the Cloud Shadow mainland, maintaining the same posture as before. What was going on? Yang Kai couldn't figure it out no matter how much he thought about it. Suddenly, a strange sound came from behind him. Yang Kai turned around and looked. His eyes slightly shrank as he said in a deep voice, "Miss Bing." Miss Bing, whom he had met in the ice prison of the proud Snow Ice Palace, was approaching from behind with a sweet smile on her face, as if she was ignorant of the ways of the world. But as she approached, Yang Kai felt a great sense of danger. He turned half of his body to face Bailey Mo, and this mysterious girl at the same time. Speaking of which, although Miss Bing had helped him in the ice prison that day, Yang Kai did not fully believe her words. The reason why he had accepted the profound nether needle was mainly because Miss Bing had said that it was quite powerful, and could delay Bailey Mo for 3 to 10 breaths of time. At that time, Yang Kai was repairing the World Gate in Bailey Mo's territory, so he had to guard against Bailey Mo. If not for today's incident, Yang Kai would not have used the profound nether needle, and would have kept it hidden. Now, it seemed that he had fallen into the other party's trap, and had been used by them. But even if he could do it again, Yang Kai would still have to use the profound nether needle. In front of Bailey Mo, he really did not have the ability to resist. Boy, you did well. Bing Nu's figure came to a halt, and she stood 1,000 meters away from Yang Kai and Bailey Mo, forming a triangle as she looked at him with a smile. You've succeeded so quickly, choosing you was the right choice. Yang Kai said lightly. I don't know what you are talking about. Being used by others naturally made him unhappy. Although he had not seen the true face of Miss Bing until now, he knew that she was definitely using him to scheme something. This was enough to make Yang Kai vigilant. What did you call her? Bailey Mo glared at Yang Kai hatefully and sneered. Do you know how old she is? You actually called her Miss Bing. You're not young either. Yang Kai glanced at her. These two women are not good at all. The most important thing right now is to figure out where this damn place is, and then find a way to escape. Since this Lady Bing dared to make use of him to scheme against Bailey Mo, it was likely that her strength was not low. Now that the city gates were on fire, it was best for him to escape as soon as possible. If he was caught in the crossfire, he was afraid that he would not be able to protect himself. Traitor! Miss Bing gritted her teeth. I haven't seen you for tens of thousands of years, and your courage has grown. You actually dare to talk to this senior like this. Bailey Mo sneered. Master, why are you still not dead yet? This disciple thought that you had already died in the ice prison. I didn't expect to see you again. Yang Kai, who was looking left and right to find a way out, heard this, and couldn't help but laugh. You two are really master and disciple. That day when Miss Bing said that she and Bailey Mo were master and disciple, Yang Kai did not believe it. Now it seems that Miss Bing was not lying about this, but the truth was not like what she said. She was Bailey Mo's disciple. The truth was the other way around. She is actually Bailey Mo's master. A demon saint's master. This was simply an existence at the level of an antique. What did you tell him? Bailey Mo looked at Lady Bing and asked. When she saw the Xianming needle, Bailey Mo had already understood everything. It was definitely the day, when Yang Kai was locked up in the ice prison, that gave him the opportunity to come in contact with her master. However, for the past tens of thousands of years, Lady Bing had not made any movements in the ice prison. She had really thought that Lady Bing was dead. After all, she had personally investigated her many times, but she had not discovered any mysteries. Now, it seemed that Lady Bing had used some kind of secret technique to deceive her senses. Miss Bing pursed her lips and smiled sweetly. I didn't say anything. I just told him your story and asked him to do me a small favor. Shameless. Bailey Mo snorted coldly. Did you think that you would win by dragging me here? Master, you must have forgotten that I am no longer the obedient me of the past. I, Bailey Mo, am a demon saint. Miss Bing nodded repeatedly. I know. Otherwise, why would I be imprisoned in the ice prison for tens of thousands of years? Bailey Mo said. If you had hidden in the ice prison, perhaps you could have died of old age. But since you dared to come out and scheme against me, don't blame me for not being polite. Miss Bing smiled sweetly. Your ability was taught by me. What do you think your chances of winning are? More than enough to kill you. Bailey Mo retorted. Wait a moment, you two. Yang Kai heard them bickering and felt a little bored, so he raised his hand to stop them. Looking around, he asked, May I ask, what is this place? Miss Bing smiled and replied, This is this Queen's Soul battlefield. Yang Kai's expression changed slightly. Is this the secret technique sealed in the dark profound needle? Yes. Miss Bing nodded. Once the soul battlefield is activated, it can pull the other soul avatar into this place and fight with their souls. Until death. Yang Kai couldn't help but nod. What an amazing secret technique. Miss Bing's physical body was still trapped in the 18 layers of ice prison, and had been imprisoned there for tens of thousands of years. Even if her physical body was still intact, it probably wouldn't be of much use. In other words, even if she was given a physical body, she wouldn't be able to use much of its strength. However, this soul battlefield was different. Both sides were free from the shackles of their physical bodies and fought with their soul avatars. Lady Bing was able to suppress Bai Li Mo's advantage to the greatest extent. Since she had been preparing for this for tens of thousands of years, her attainments in soul strength should not be underestimated. I have a proposal, but I don't know if Miss Bing is willing to listen. You just want to kill that slut Bai Li Mo. So if you can promise me, I will take her life within 10 breaths. Hearing Yang Kai call her a slut without hesitation, Bai Li Mo's face turned black, and she secretly gritted her teeth. If she had the chance, she would definitely teach Yang Kai a lesson. The corners of Miss Bing's mouth curled up. Take her life within 10 breaths? Boy, aren't you afraid that the wind will cut your tongue? What kind of cultivation do you have? Even this queen doesn't have this ability, let alone you. Yang Kai chuckled lightly. Naturally, I will need Miss Bing's cooperation. Miss Bing asked, how? Let me out and I promise to chop her body into mincemeat. As Yang Kai spoke, his hands turned into knives and quickly chopped the air as if he was chopping meat. As soon as this was said, Bai Li Mo's face changed greatly and she gritted her teeth. Boy, you dare! If her body was really destroyed, then she would be finished. So when she heard Yang Kai say this, she was very nervous, afraid that Miss Bing would agree to his proposal. Miss Bing suddenly laughed out loud. Yang Kai also laughed. What does Miss Bing think of my proposal? Speaking of which, I am very innocent. I accidentally got involved in your battle. I have nothing to do with this and I can't help much here. So why don't you let me go out and help? Your proposal is very good. Miss Bing nodded, but the smile on her face disappeared. But I can't promise you. Yang Kai curled his lips. Why? Miss Bing narrowed her eyes and looked at Bai Li Mo. If you chop her body into mincemeat, then this queen won't be able to take over her body. Yang Kai blinked and laughed involuntarily. So this is your plan? You actually want to take over my body? Bai Li Mo sneered. But since the other party had such a plan, she was a little relieved. Otherwise, she was really afraid that Yang Kai would be released. Why not? Miss Bing raised her brow slightly. You and I cultivate the same secret art. As long as I can defeat you, it shouldn't be too difficult to take over your body. And this queen is just taking back what belongs to her. I'm afraid you don't have the ability. Bai Li Mo sneered. Whether I have the ability or not, we'll know after we try. Miss Bing smiled gently, her aura slowly rising as ice principle filled the air. Licking her red lips, she said, Disciple, do you know? That year, before that man died, he kept calling out your name, wanting you to save him. Chapter 3553. On the Cloud Shadow mainland, 300,000 feet above the place where Yang Kai had broken through, a man and a woman stood there like statues. Yang Kai's dragon claw pierced into Bai Li Mo's chest and grabbed hold of her beating demon heart. A look of pain appeared on Bai Li Mo's face, but her pair of beautiful eyes had no focus, only emptiness. A faint smell of blood drifted with the wind. The embodiment returned in a sorry state, but when it saw this scene, it was stunned for a moment and hurriedly rushed to the side, looking carefully for a while, its angular face showing a troubled and anxious expression. It didn't know what had happened just now, but it couldn't feel any trace of soul from Yang Kai and Bai Li Mo's bodies. In other words, their souls had already left their bodies and gone to some unknown place. This made it a little difficult for it. At this moment, it was undoubtedly the best time to kill Bai Li Mo. Bai Li Mo's body was here, but her soul was nowhere to be seen. No matter what it did, she wouldn't be able to resist. But the key point was, if it really killed Bai Li Mo, what if Yang Kai was also implicated? Two souls couldn't have left their bodies at the same time for no reason. It was definitely because of some secret technique. Before it saw through the use of this technique, the embodiment didn't dare to act rashly. It didn't even dare to move the bodies of the two. Helpless, it could only use the power of the entire mainland to cover up the traces here, lest it be discovered. In the Divine Soul battlefield, Miss Bing's voice was cold and piercing to the bone. Every word she said was heart-wrenching. That guy was infatuated with you. He thought that you would come and save him in the end. However, even when he died, he couldn't fulfill his wish. Disciple. Do you know when he died, the look of despair on his face was really memorable? Why didn't you save him at that time? As long as you asked, Master would have helped you. You are Master's most valued disciple. Black Ice. Bailey Mo let out an angry roar as her pretty face twisted. Her delicate body trembled as countless cold lights shot forward like a swarm of locusts. Xian Bing had a faint sneer on her face. A visible light curtain appeared on her body, forming a semicircle in front of her. Sizzling sounds could be heard incessantly. When the cold light collided with the light curtain, it only created layers of ripples. However, it was unable to break through the protection of the light curtain. The concept of ice in the Divine Soul battlefield became more and more intense, as if it was going to freeze one's divine soul. This pair of master and disciple were both snow demons. They were both proficient in the laws of ice. Moreover, their attainments in the power of the soul had reached a frightening level. With this attack, the entire soul battlefield was affected. Yang Kai realized that something was wrong when Xian Bing provoked him. He hurriedly ran away. Bailey Mo was a demon saint, so she naturally had a demon saint-level soul cultivation. Since profound ice dared to attack her, Bailey Mo estimated that her soul was not far off. Yang Kai did not dare to participate in the battle between these two, but what made Yang Kai speechless was that although this soul battlefield seemed vast and boundless, it was actually very limited. He had just escaped 10 kilometers away when he was blocked by an invisible force. It was as if he had reached the border of the soul battlefield and couldn't run any further. When the ice-cold power hit him, Yang Kai's entire soul avatar trembled, and a thin layer of frost appeared on the surface of his body. Startled, Yang Kai hurriedly pushed his spiritual energy to resist this ice-cold power. This was really bad luck. Yang Kai's heart was filled with grief and indignation. Judging from the situation in front of him, he was afraid that he would die here before the battle between Xian Bing and Bailey Mo finished. Watching the tigers fight and reaping the benefits of the fisherman was nothing but a delusion. Although Xian Bing had the protection of her spiritual energy, preventing her soul avatar from being harmed, she was still forced back step by step. From this point of view, it seemed that her attainments in spiritual energy were inferior to Bailey Mo's. After all, she had been imprisoned by Bailey Mo for tens of thousands of years, and Bailey Mo was now a demon saint. It was normal for her strength to be inferior, but the smile on her face didn't weaken in the slightest, and the provocation in her mouth didn't stop. Are you angry? After so many years you still can't forget that guy. You really are a good disciple of Master. You even want to remember your Master's man. What happened in the end? He died by your hands. Bullshit. Bailey Mo, who had been silent all this time, gritted her teeth and cursed. You were the one who killed him. What does it have to do with me? Xian Bing's face was cold. If it weren't for you, why would Master kill him? As she spoke, Xian Bing retreated a few hundred meters. The corner of her mouth curled up, and she smiled. Disciple, you seem to be injured. Why is your soul strength different from what I expected? On the other side, Yang Kai, who was struggling to resist the cold, heard this and understood. Of course Bailey Mo was injured. Not only Bailey Mo, but all the 12 demon saint in the territory were injured. Mingyu had destroyed most of their soul fragments, and in such a short time, it was likely that these demon saint hadn't recovered yet. And with her soul strength injured, Bailey Mo's strength in the soul battlefield had dropped a lot. So what? Bailey Mo snorted coldly, raising a finger and gently pointing it at Xian Bing. With this point, Xian Bing's delicate body shook, and then a snowflake appeared on her chest. The snowflake was like a brand, imprinting itself on Xian Bing's chest. Accompanied by a cracking sound, the snowflake quickly grew bigger, and the ice principle condensed, covering Xian Bing completely. An extremely painful expression appeared on Xian Bing's face. Her body also became stiff. But soon, she suddenly laughed and said sarcastically, I told you. I taught you this ability. What can you do to me? As she spoke, the snowflake on her body melted quickly, and at the same time, She took a few steps forward and pointed a finger at Bailey Mo. Bailey Mo's expression turned cold, and her body moved, avoiding the invisible finger. Before Bailey Mo could regain her footing, several white chains shot towards her from all directions. They were like spiritual snakes that had come out of their lair, trying to bind her. Bailey Mo stretched out her hand and grabbed at the air. A sparkling sword appeared in her hand. She casually pointed at the top of one of the chains. With a ding-dang, the chain was sent flying. She casually waved her hand, and a rain of swords fell like a waterfall, transforming into a curtain of light. The sound of clanging rang out incessantly, and when the cold light bloomed, the two were locked in a fierce battle. This master and disciple, whether it was their race or their cultivation method, came from the same source, and the methods they used to fight were very similar, but one was trapped for a long time and was weaker than the other, while the other was injured and fighting in an away place. For a short time, they were evenly matched. Yang Kai was completely ignored by them. Xian Bing did not know that Yang Kai had a great opportunity, so she was focused on seizing Bailey Mo's body and devouring her disciple's soul, so she did not care about Yang Kai's life or death. Even if Bailey Mo wanted to save Yang Kai's life, she had no time to be distracted at this moment. The result was that Yang Kai's situation was becoming more and more unbearable. It was fine when these two women did not fight, but when they did, the coldness of the entire soul battlefield rose steadily. Yang Kai desperately urged the power of his soul to resist, but he was unable to protect himself. Although he had hidden at the edge of the battlefield, his body was gradually covered in frost, and the bone-chilling cold not only made his soul tremble, but also seemed to freeze his mind. The frost gradually turned into ice, and in less than the time it took for an incense stick to burn, Yang Kai's soul avatar was completely frozen, and his consciousness gradually sank, as if he had fallen into a bottomless abyss, and darkness filled his eyes. This time, it was really over in the eternal heaven continent. He had escaped from under the nose of the 12 demon saint, but unexpectedly, he was defeated in this damned place. Was there anything more sullen than this? Just as Yang Kai's thoughts had completely sunk into the boundless darkness, a cool feeling suddenly swept through his body, causing Yang Kai to suddenly wake up. When Yang Kai's vision refocused, he discovered that he was still wrapped in a layer of ice, and an unbearable chill was spreading from every part of his soul. However, under the effect of the cooling sensation, he didn't feel as uncomfortable as before. The soul-warming lotus. Yang Kai's eyes rolled, and he somewhat didn't dare to believe it. How could the soul-warming lotus still have an effect? His soul avatar was pulled into this soul battlefield, but the soul-warming lotus wasn't. Logically speaking, the connection between him and the soul-warming lotus should have been completely severed. But at this moment, it seemed that this connection hadn't been severed at all. Yang Kai even felt that he could summon the soul-warming lotus. And not just the soul-warming lotus, but everything in his sea of consciousness could be summoned aware of this. Yang Kai quietly closed his eyes and decided to temporarily become a coward. On the battlefield, the battle between Xian Bing and Bailey Mo was in full swing. Powerful soul energies were overflowing, and the entire soul battlefield was turbulent, as if it could collapse at any time. The crystal-clear ice mountains around them exploded into powder, and the entire world was filled with ice powder. The snowflakes drifting down from the sky became more and more violent. The two figures were entangled in midair, sometimes colliding, sometimes separating, and sometimes grunting. A soul battle was not like an ordinary battle, and this kind of battle could be said to be the most dangerous. A moment of carelessness could lead to death, and every time they collided, whether it was Xian Bing or Bailey Mo, they would have to endure great pain, and it was almost like they were losing 800 of their own. But these two women, who were supposed to be master and disciple, were now like irreconcilable enemies, determined to kill each other. Chapter 3554. Another violent collision shook the entire spiritual battlefield. However, this time, Bailey Mo and Xian Bing did not separate. Instead, they stuck close to each other, their palms touching each other. Their spiritual energy surged wildly, turning into a force that could topple mountains and overturn seas as they attacked each other. It's been tens of thousands of years, and this is the chance I've been waiting for. Even if I die here today, I won't let you off so easily. Xian Bing's pretty face was twisted in anger as she screamed hysterically. Bailey Mo's expression was dignified as she urged her spiritual energy to resist Xian Bing's attack. Teacher, the past is the past. I think we can sit down and talk. Talk. Xian Bing laughed sarcastically. Talk about what? What do I have to talk about with a bitch like you? In order to deal with you, I even gave up my body. There is no way back. Bailey Mo said. But teacher, you are no longer my opponent. If you continue like this, your soul will be destroyed. Although you gave up your body, I can find you a new one. You may have a chance to rise again in the future. How can you be so kind? Xian Bing sneered. Don't forget I raised you. Do you think I don't know what kind of person you are? I'm afraid if I stop, you will immediately kill me. Bailey Mo sighed slightly. Then what do I have to do to make teacher believe me? Stop dreaming. I will never believe you. Bailey Mo said lightly. Even if I swear in the name of the great demon god teacher, you will not believe me. Xian Bing's eyes widened. You are willing to swear in the name of the great demon god? Bailey Mo nodded gently. As long as teacher is willing to stop. Xian Bing did not expect Bailey Mo to be so sincere. Her expression froze for a moment, but it was only for a moment before she gave up on this thought. Her face became ferocious again, and she slowly shook her head. It's too late, it's too late. When I killed that person, you and I were destined to fight to the death. Bailey Mo gritted her teeth. Do you have to be so aggressive? I have already retreated time and time again. Seeing that you are my master, I am willing to give you a way out. Don't be so ungrateful. Xian Bing coldly snorted. Don't try to flatter me. I'm not your opponent. If you keep going on like this, I'm going to die here. But so what? You won't have an easy time. She was confident that she would be able to deal a heavy blow to Bailey Mo if she risked her life. Bailey Mo closed her eyes and didn't say anything else. When she opened her eyes again, the fluctuation of her divine soul suddenly became stronger. Xian Bing groaned under the pressure. In the sky, the two women were in a stalemate. Their spiritual souls were decreasing at an obvious speed. However, Xian Bing's spiritual soul was decreasing much faster. In less than an hour, she would be killed here. Although she had borrowed Yang Kai's hand to forcefully drag Bailey Mo's spiritual soul into the spiritual battlefield. And Bailey Mo was also injured. But her strength was inferior to Yang Kai's, so all her calculations were useless. Even so, when Xian Bing looked at Bailey Mo, her eyes were filled with unwillingness and anger. After an incense stick's worth of time, Xian Bing's spiritual avatar had become translucent. This was a sign that her spiritual strength had been overdrawn. At this moment, even if she wanted to stop, she wouldn't be able to hold on for long in this state. Bailey Mo, who had been confronting her for a long time, was also pale and her body was shaking. However, at this time, neither of the two women dared to stop. Otherwise, they would be the first to be injured. In this battle of spiritual energy, only one of them would be able to completely fall in the end. Judging from the current situation, the one who would die would undoubtedly be Xian Bing. At this moment, another aura suddenly came from 10 kilometers away, like a sleeping dragon waking up. The two women turned their heads in unison, and were both stunned. On the other side, Yang Kai, who had been frozen in ice, suddenly opened his eyes and summoned the soul-splitting saber with his divine sense, transforming into a curtain of light that enveloped him. With a series of cracking sounds, Yang Kai broke free and grabbed the soul-splitting saber in his hand, the corners of his mouth rising into a smile. The situation here was as he thought. Everything in his knowledge could be summoned. If the soul-splitting saber could, then the other things should be able to as well, with a thought. A 7-colored light bloomed under Yang Kai's feet, and a 7-colored treasure lotus appeared out of thin air, lifting him into the air. Yang Kai stepped on the 7-colored soul-warming lotus, and carried the soul-splitting saber on his shoulder, like a mountain king preparing to descend from the mountain to rob, valiantly walking towards the center of the battlefield. The wind was cold and the law of ice was raging, But the light around the soul-warming lotus blocked all the cold, and Yang Kai was not affected at all. Both Xianbing and Bai Liemo were stunned, staring blankly at Yang Kai until Xianbing whispered, "You're not dead." After the battle with Bai Liemo, she did not pay attention to Yang Kai's situation. In her opinion, such a weak boy would not be able to last long in her spiritual battlefield, so there was no need to pay too much attention to him. But in fact, not only was Yang Kai not dead, but he was also full of energy. As he approached, a fierce and evil aura pressed down on Xianbing, causing her to stagnate. "Are you disappointed?" Yang Kai grinned at her, then looked at Bai Liemo, the corners of his mouth full of evil intentions. Bai Liemo's expression changed, and without hesitation, she opened her mouth and spat out an icicle towards Yang Kai. With a whoosh, a hole was immediately pierced through Yang Kai's chest and abdomen, but there was no blood. After all, he was a soul avatar, so naturally there would not be any blood. Yang Kai looked down at his wound in a daze, then looked up at Bai Liemo with a violent expression. "Bitch, it hurts so much." While speaking, he stepped on the soul-warming lotus and rushed in front of Bai Liemo, then slapped her. With a bang, Bai Liemo's head tilted to the side. If she was a physical body, there would be a 5-finger mark on her face. This slap not only stunned Bai Liemo, but also Xianbing. She stared blankly at the wounds on Yang Kai's body, unable to understand why he was still unscathed. With a soul avatar suffering such a heavy injury, even if it did not die, it would definitely lose the ability to resist. But Yang Kai was still alive and kicking. This was not normal. While the two women were still in a daze, the wound on Yang Kai's chest and abdomen was already flowing with a 7-colored light. The hole caused by the icicle was actually healing at a speed visible to the naked eye. At the same time, the soul-warming lotus at his feet also released a dazzling radiance. Soul-warming lotus, the treasure of heaven and earth, the soul-warming lotus. Xianbing screamed, her eyes burning with passion as she stared at the 7-colored lotus. Although Yang Kai came here on the soul-warming lotus, Xianbing did not think too much about it. She was only surprised by the tenacity of this little brat's vitality. Now that she saw the miraculous effects of the soul-warming lotus with her own eyes, a light flashed in her mind, and she recognized what the lotus was. This was the treasure of heaven and earth. The so-called supreme treasure was a unique existence that originated from the primal chaos and was born with the heavens and earth. No wonder this little brat was able to survive. With the protection of the treasure of heaven and earth, although the environment of the soul battlefield was harsh, it would not take his life. This was a treasure that only existed in legends. Xianbing never thought that she would one day see it with her own eyes. Xianbing, who was already prepared to die, could not help but think. Her situation was not good, and she did not have a physical body. Unless she could successfully take over Bai Liemo's body, she would not be able to live for long. However, if she had the soul-warming lotus, things would be different. If she could obtain this treasure of heaven and earth, her soul avatar would never be in danger of dissipating. Not only would she be able to turn the tables, but she might even be able to take over Bai Liemo's body. Bai Liemo was stunned when she heard Xianbing's voice. As a demon saint, she should have been furious after being slapped by Yang Kai. However, when the word soul-warming lotus entered her ears, she forgot to be angry. She turned her head and stared at the rainbow lotus in a daze. Although she hated Xianbing, she believed in her judgment. Furthermore, she was a demon saint. Naturally, she could sense that the rainbow lotus was not ordinary. This little brat actually had the soul-warming lotus? What a terrifying opportunity. No wonder she always felt that this little brat's soul cultivation was higher than her own. So this was the reason. He also had a part of the will of heaven and earth in his body. He was also proficient in the laws of space. Any one of these was a dream that ordinary people could only dream of. Now they had all gathered in one person. Was this guy Hao Hongyu's illegitimate son? How could a person's luck be so good? Just as Bai Liemo was in a daze, Yang Kai slapped her again. With a smack, Bai Liemo's head was slapped to the side. She turned her head and gritted her teeth. You, asterisk smack, asterisk she turned her head again. Asterisk smack. Asterisk after 3 slaps, Bai Liemo's body trembled. She was obviously furious. To think that she, a dignified demon saint, was slapped in the face like crazy. This was the first time in her life that she had ever been humiliated like this. The anger in her heart turned into a monstrous wave. However, she did not dare to turn her head again. She did not know why, but seeing Yang Kai again, she felt that he had changed a little. His words and actions were full of ruthlessness. Don't go too far. Bailey Mo's eyes narrowed as a cold light flashed in her eyes. I'm going too far? Yang Kai grinned fiercely as he pointed his soul-splitting saber at Bailey Mo's white neck, coldly saying, Who's the one who's gone too far? You should be clear in your heart. I already said if you don't kill me now, I'll kill you myself. Do you regret it now? Bailey Mo did not make a sound, but she gritted her teeth so hard that they were about to break. Yang Kai tilted his head and looked at Xianbing, chuckling lightly. Senior's calculation is really good. I almost fell for your trap. When you gave me the profound dark needle, you didn't say that it would be dangerous to me if it was activated, Xianbing said. Aren't you the one who reaped the benefits now? Chapter 3555. Oh, I've caught a cold. It's so uncomfortable. Huh. Yang Kai rested the soul-severing saber on his shoulder again, and rubbed his chin with his other hand. That's because this young master is lucky. If it were anyone else, I'm afraid their souls would have already scattered. Xianbing didn't say anything. Her face changed. No one knew what she was thinking. Yang Kai looked around for a while and said in an unquestionable tone, There are two options. I'll chop you to death with one strike, or I'll chop you to death with one strike. Make your choice. As he spoke, he slowly raised the soul-slaying saber. As his divine sense surged, the saber light flickered like a venomous snake flicking its tongue. Both Xianbing and Bailey Mo paled slightly. The two women had never expected that the situation would develop to such a point. They had been fighting like fire and water, fighting to the death. But now Yang Kai had taken advantage of them. Without any hesitation, Bailey Mo looked at Xianbing and said, I will count to 3. You and I will retreat together. At this time, only if she and Xianbing reached a temporary compromise and stopped fighting at the same time could they escape this crisis. Otherwise, if Yang Kai really slashed down, even if she was a demon saint, she would still die here. After saying that, he began to count without any explanation. Yang Kai sneered from the side. The soul cutter's aura was becoming more and more dangerous. Before Bailey Mo could count to 3, the soul-severing blade had already slashed towards her mercilessly. To Yang Kai, Bailey Mo was undoubtedly more dangerous than Black Ice. So if he wanted to kill her, he would kill this demon saint first. Black Ice's soul avatar was now in a semi-transparent state, so there was nothing to fear. Bright Moon had only fallen for less than a month. If they could kill a demon saint, it would be considered as revenge for him. Seeing the blade chi slashing down, Bailey Mo's face fell, and she tried to retreat, disregarding her own injuries. Wait! Xianbing suddenly shouted. I have something to say. The saber chi stopped right above Bailey Mo's head, and the sharp chi cut into the Devil Saint's soul avatar, causing her to feel a piercing pain. She was so shocked that her face turned pale, and her soul avatar trembled. Yang Kai looked at Xianbing and said coldly, Cut the crap. I have no patience. Xianbing said straightforwardly, Do you want a saint of devil who listens to you and works for you? If you do, you'd better listen to what I have to say. Xianbing, 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 Xianbing. What do you mean? I mean it literally. Xianbing. Xianbing was Xianbing. In order to subdue a person, it was nothing more than planting one's soul brand in the other party's knowledge sea, or forcing the other party to hand over their soul brand. From there, one could control the other party's life and death with a single thought. Yang Kai had done this more than once, but the premise was that his soul cultivation was stronger than the opponent's. Only then could he break through the opponent's soul defense. Bailey Mo was a demon saint, and Yang Kai didn't have the confidence to control her life and death. Xianbing sneered. The difference in strength between the two of you is too great. Even with my help, how can you subdue her? She paused, Xian Bing's lips curled up. But I have my own plan. Narrowing his eyes, Kai Yang pondered for a moment before saying, even if you have the ability, what good will it do you? Of course it won't do me any good. Xian Bing sneered. Not only will it not do me any good, it will do me a lot of harm. But as I said, even if I die, I won't let this bitch have it easy. Bailey Mo said in a low voice. Boy, this woman is full of tricks. Don't fall into her trap. Yang Kai pressed the soul-severing saber down and pointed his chin at her. Before I give you permission to speak, if you say another word, I'll cut you in half. Bailey Mo trembled with anger, and her eyes were filled with hatred. Seeing that she had calmed down, Yang Kai turned to Xian Bing. Tell me in detail, how will you help me? Yang Kai had to admit that Xian Bing's words were very attractive to him. Compared to subduing a demon saint, killing a demon saint wasn't bad, but the benefits were too small. Of course it's to plant your soul brand. Are you joking with me? Kai Yang's face suddenly sank. He felt like he had been deceived, making him feel very bad. Xian Bing chuckled. Of course I'm not joking. I know what you're worried about. It's just that this bitch's soul cultivation is stronger than yours, and you can't break through her soul defense. But what if someone takes the initiative to cooperate? Yang Kai's face darkened. She's not an idiot. She won't cooperate. As he spoke, he lost his patience, and his aura became dangerous. Of course she won't cooperate, but I will. Xian Bing laughed, and there was a crazy look on her face. At first, Bailey Mo didn't take her words to heart, but after hearing what she said, she seemed to have thought of something. Her face changed, and she glared at Xian Bing with a trace of fear in her eyes. Her change of expression didn't escape Yang Kai's eyes, and Yang Kai felt that Xian Bing's words were more believable. Xian Bing continued, you can plant your brand in my soul, and then my life will be under your control. Then, she glanced at Bailey Mo coldly. I will try to possess this bitch. If I succeed, my life will still be under your control, but if I fail, what will happen if you fail? Yang Kai narrowed his eyes and asked. Since this slut can devour my soul, the soul brand will naturally be transferred over and used on her. Xian Bing laughed crazily. So no matter if I succeed or fail, you will have a demon saint. What do you think of this deal? As soon as she said this, Yang Kai's pupils dilated. If what Xian Bing said was true, then this was a business without any capital, and the returns would be great. It was really tempting, but how could he believe Xian Bing's words? Bailey Mo looked anxious, as if she wanted to say something but didn't dare to. Yang Kai said, what do you want to say? Bailey Mo hurriedly said, don't believe her. She's just lying to you. Yang Kai turned to Xian Bing and smiled. What I said is true. Boy, if you have the ability to tell right from wrong, you will know that I can't lie to you about this. Bailey Mo humphed. Is that so? No matter who swallows who in the end, the power of our soul will be much stronger than his. So what if he has the brand of soul? He will only need to spend some time to break it. Xian Bing said, you said it yourself. It will take some time to break it. What if he strengthens the brand of soul every once in a while? Bailey Mo's face changed. She gritted her teeth and said, you are digging your own grave. Xian Bing laughed. Are you afraid? It's good that you're scared. This consort is merely paying you back for all that you've done back then. Do you know how this consort has endured these tens of thousands of years? If I didn't want revenge, I would have killed myself long ago. Turning his head, he gritted his teeth and said to Yang Kai, little brat, if you're interested, then quickly lend me a hand. Otherwise, if she really manages to escape, all my efforts will be for naught. How can I help you? Yang Kai asked in a deep voice. In this very short period of time, Yang Kai had already made up his mind. He couldn't help but be tempted by Xian Bing's proposal. Now that things had come to this, he could only take a risk. If he succeeded, he could really subdue a demon saint. Use the power of the soul-warming lotus to replenish my soul. Xian Bing gritted her teeth and said. Yang Kai did not hesitate. He immediately did as she said. The power of the soul-warming lotus bloomed and covered her. Xian Bing, who had been in a stalemate with Bailey Mo, couldn't help but groan. Her translucent body condensed again, at a speed visible to the naked eye. Not only that, her body was shining, which looked very mysterious. Bailey Mo's face was so gloomy that it could almost drip water. "Open your soul consciousness," Yang Kai shouted. Xian Bing hesitated for a moment, but still did as she was told. Yang Kai's soul consciousness surged and a chain suddenly appeared. It wrapped around Xian Bing's soul avatar and disappeared into her body. At the same time, Yang Kai had a strange feeling. Before he could understand it, Xian Bing said, "You can go out now. Next, it will be my battle with her." As soon as her voice fell, a huge repulsive force came from all directions and directly pushed Yang Kai out of the soul battlefield. Yang Kai only had time to curse before his eyes blurred, and his soul consciousness returned to his body. In front of him, there was a fragrance and a faint smell of blood. He looked up and found that he was still in the same position. One of his dragon claws was in Bailey Mo's chest, holding the beating demon heart. The avatar sensed it and immediately flew over and said, "What's going on?" "It's a long story." Yang Kai's soul consciousness surged, and he shared what happened in the soul battlefield with the avatar. After a while, the avatar was surprised. "It can be like this?" Yang Kai said with a dark face. "It seems that I was fooled by Xian Bing." At the last moment, when he planted the soul imprint in Xian Bing's soul, he had a strange feeling that made him realize something. Even if he planted the soul imprint in Xian Bing's soul, he might not be able to control the life and death of a demon saint. The gap between their soul cultivation was too big. "Do you want me to?" The embodiment stared at Bailey Mo, who was motionless and had a pained expression on her face. He raised his hand and made a throat-slitting gesture. Now was the best time to kill Bailey Mo. She would not resist at all. Yang Kai could easily chop her into a pile of meat paste. But if he did that, then all the previous efforts would be in vain. After pondering for a while, Yang Kai said, "Let's wait and see." Although he could not control the life and death of a demon saint, the soul brand was not useless. Now he just had to see how effective it was. Chapter 3556. Moreover, he now had Bailey Mo's demon heart and could severely injure it at any time, so there was nothing to be afraid of. Anyway, in the spiritual battlefield, no matter who won in the end, the spiritual soul would eventually return to the body in front of him. "I'm afraid that time waits for no one," the embodiment said with a dignified expression. "Xueli and Yu Meng have already arrived at Cloud Shadow." Yang Kai frowned when he heard this. As the master of this continent, since the embodiment said so, he must have sensed something. Yu Meng's arrival was not a big deal, but it was a good thing. However, Xueli gave Yang Kai a headache. "Do we need to lure Yu Meng here?" the embodiment asked. Yang Kai pondered for a moment, then slowly shook his head and said, "No, don't let her know about this for the time being." Although Yu Meng had protected him on the Eternal Heaven continent, Yang Kai still could not completely trust her. Before the situation here was clear, luring her here would only add more variables. Her relationship with Bailey Mo had never been good, so if she really saw Bailey Mo's current situation, she might take the opportunity to kill her. Even if he succeeded here, Yang Kai did not intend to tell Yu Meng. He should always be on guard against what should be guarded against. Who knows when it will save his life? However, the two demon saint had already arrived at Cloud Shadow, so they would find this place sooner or later. Now it all depended on how long the embodiment could conceal the aura here. "How long can you delay them?" Yang Kai asked. The embodiment shook his head and said, "I can't delay them, but they are now searching around Cloud Shadow. They will find this place in an hour." Yang Kai's face darkened when he heard this. "I'm afraid it's too late to move now." Bailey Mo's aura still lingered here, so it would be useless to move. Now, he could only hope that the battle between Xian Bing and Bailey Mo would end in an hour. The two were silent for a moment, and only the demon heart in Yang Kai's hand was beating continuously. In less than half an hour, only a stick of incense worth of time later, Yang Kai suddenly noticed that Bailey Mo's spiritual energy had been restored. Immediately afterwards, Bailey Mo's empty eyes became lively, as if she felt some pain and couldn't help letting out a groan. As she focused her vision, She saw Yang Kai standing in front of her with a guarded expression. One of his hands was already in her chest. Her heart was tightly gripped by that hand, making it hard for her to breathe. Bailey Mo? Yang Kai raised his eyebrows. Everyone's spirit aura was different. Yang Kai could naturally tell who the revived spirit in this body belonged to. But what made him feel a little relieved was that the feeling he felt in Xian Bing's soul avatar hadn't disappeared. It seemed like Xian Bing was right. The brand of soul avatar had been transferred to Bailey Mo. Yes. Bailey Mo gritted her teeth as she glared at Yang Kai. So Xian Bing is dead? Yang Kai let out a sigh of relief. He wasn't too surprised. Xian Bing herself didn't have much confidence in swallowing Bailey Mo. So this ending was within her expectations. Are you disappointed? Bailey Mo sneered. I wouldn't say I'm disappointed. Yang Kai shook his head. To me, it doesn't matter who lives and who dies. Neither of you are good people. Bailey Mo took a deep breath, her full breasts heaving up and down, causing the wound on her chest to tighten. Her brow furrowed slightly as she looked down at Yang Kai's big hand and asked, Can you take your hand out now? Don't you think it's rude to treat a woman like this? You are a demon saint, not an ordinary woman. Yang Kai snorted, but he didn't insist. Instead, he slowly released the demon heart and pulled his hand back. Blood splattered everywhere, and Bailey Mo groaned again, her face pale. Before she could even catch her breath, Yang Kai's divine sense had already moved. Bailey Mo immediately hugged her head and screamed, What are you doing? She glared at Yang Kai. Yang Kai said, Testing the power of that soul brand. Stop it. Do you want to kill me? Bailey Mo screamed, her body trembling as she squatted down. Yang Kai looked down at her condescendingly, his expression cold and ruthless. Don't try to put on an act in front of me. I know that even with my soul brand, it's impossible for me to kill you. But that doesn't prevent me from causing you pain. Remember this feeling. If one day you dare to have any thoughts of harming me, this feeling will accompany you until the day you die. The soul brand couldn't control Bailey Mo's life or death, but it could restrict her movements. If Bailey Mo was in the middle of a life and death battle with Yang Kai, she would definitely die on the spot. Bailey Mo's screams were incomparably miserable, and it was obvious that she was really suffering. Her body was emitting killing intent uncontrollably, but she didn't dare to make a move. Yang Kai had been pushing the soul brand to the maximum, but he couldn't really take Bailey Mo's life, only making her scream even more miserable. After a short while, Yang Kai stopped. He had already tested the soul brand, and although it was different from what Xian Bing had said before, it was still within an acceptable range. Bailey Mo was lying on the ground like a pile of mud, gasping for air, her body drenched in sweat. Her pair of beautiful eyes stared blankly at the sky, unable to focus for a long time, like a fish on the brink of death. A gust of wind blew, and a chill spread throughout her body, causing Bailey Mo to shiver uncontrollably. Only then did she regain her senses. Looking up, Yang Kai was standing in front of her, looking down at her. She tilted her head, clenched her fists, and the corners of her eyes were slightly wet. Ever since she became a demon saint, she had never suffered such great humiliation. That bitch Xian Bing, even at the cost of her own life, she still wanted to make a move on her. Open up your knowledge, see. I need to strengthen the soul brand. Yang Kai ordered. Bailey Mo didn't move, as if she was deaf. Yang Kai laughed angrily. Don't look like you're being humiliated by me. Do you know that you're still very attractive like this? If you provoke my beast heart. Without waiting for Yang Kai to finish his words, Bailey Mo staggered to her feet, her silver teeth biting her red lips, and her anger couldn't be any greater. I won't say the same thing twice, Yang Kai said coldly. Bailey Mo closed her eyes. She was afraid that if she looked at Yang Kai again, she wouldn't be able to resist the urge to attack him. Good girl. Yang Kai laughed, and his divine sense surged, rushing into Bailey Mo's knowledge sea. I'm warning you, strengthening the brand is fine. But if you dare to pry into my secrets, I'll kill you. Bailey Mo suddenly opened her eyes and said. Yang Kai was stunned for a moment, but he nodded and said, Don't worry. I don't have the habit of prying into other people's secrets. Bailey Mo had been vigilant all this time, And when she found that Yang Kai really didn't do anything else, she was relieved. Because the brand in Bailey Mo's knowledge sea was transferred to her through Xian Bing, it was inevitable that there would be some loosening, and this strengthening also ensured that the brand was solid. After doing all this, Yang Kai said, "I need a soul imprint from you. I'm sure you can fulfill this request." "What if I'm not satisfied?" Bailey Mo's expression was ugly. "That's okay." Yang Kai smiled slightly. "Ru Meng is in the Cloud Shadow continent. I can lure her here, and I'm sure she'll be happy to have a good talk with you." Bailey Mo's expression changed greatly when she heard this. If Yang Kai planted the soul brand in her knowledge sea, it would not be a dead end. After all, she only needed to spend some time and pay some price, and she should be able to get rid of the brand, and then she would naturally be able to regain her freedom. But if Yu Rumeng knew about this, it would be over. With her relationship with Yu Rumeng, Bailey Mo guessed that she would be happy to plant another soul brand in her knowledge sea. Among the 12 demon saint, because Yu Rumeng was born as a succubus demon, her soul cultivation was the strongest. Even Huang Wuji had to admit that if she really planted the brand in her knowledge sea, she would never be able to regain her freedom in the future, and would really become a chess piece in the hands of others. Bailey Mo had to take this threat seriously, and in her heart, she hated Xian Bing to the extreme. If that bitch had not revealed a lot of information before, how could Yang Kai be so cautious? Glaring hatefully at Yang Kai for a long time, Bailey Mo suddenly smiled and said, "It doesn't matter if I hand over my soul mark to you. In any case, even if you destroy my soul mark, I'll only be slightly injured. I won't really die." Even when a wisp of her soul was destroyed by Mingyu, she would only be injured and not die. So how could a soul mark control her life and death? "I know," Yang Kai smiled softly, "but it's better than nothing." He really couldn't rely on the soul brand and the soul mark to control the life and death of a demon saint. But with these two insurance in hand, he could ensure that Bailey Mo would not dare to play any tricks in front of him. Seeing him insist, Bailey Mo was full of helplessness, but in the end, she just nodded and said, "Fine as you wish, but you have to promise to treat me well, otherwise this queen will not comply." Yang Kai said, "If you think my promise is useful, then what's the harm in giving you a promise?" Bailey Mo couldn't help curling her lips. A moment later, Yang Kai received Bailey Mo's soul mark and placed it on the 7-colored island. Only then did he relax and turn to look at Bailey Mo. "You better not try to crack that soul brand. I will check it every once in a while. If I find that you are disobedient, I will make you beg for death." "I know," Bailey Mo reluctantly responded. "Also," Yang Kai rubbed his chin and pondered, "the matter between you and me, you must not let anyone know." Bailey Mo blinked when she heard this, her long eyelashes trembling a few times. "Not even you, Ru Meng? That's my business, you don't need to worry about it." Bailey Mo couldn't help rolling her eyes as she covered her mouth and giggled. "Strange. Don't you have a heart seal secret technique? Why do you still look so guarded against her?" Chapter 3557. She had a fever, coughing, and felt weak all over. "None of your business." Yang Kai coldly snorted. Bailey Mo's eyes flashed as a meaningful smile appeared on her face, but seeing Yang Kai reach out to her, she frowned and asked, "What are you doing? Give me your space ring." Yang Kai stared at the ring on her finger. Bailey Mo was stunned for a moment before asking in surprise, "You want to rob me? Have you lost your mind?" Yang Kai simply turned his head towards the embodiment and said, "Bring Ru Meng here." "Here." Bailey Mo took off the ring and threw it at Yang Kai, her face pale with anger. Yang Kai caught the ring and poured his divine sense into it to investigate, feeling a little excited. A demon saint's space ring. How many good things were there? This was at least the accumulation of tens of thousands of years. There was indeed a lot of good things, such as a mountain of demon crystals, countless demonic artifacts, and some women's items such as colorful clothes. These clothes all had different styles, some revealing, some reserved, and others revealing. Yang Kai couldn't help but imagine what Bailey Mo would look like wearing these clothes. They would definitely be very attractive. Thinking so, Yang Kai couldn't help looking her up and down. Bailey Mo seemed to know what he was looking at and sneered coldly, intentionally or unintentionally reaching out to tuck her hair behind her ear, showing a myriad of flirtatious expressions. Yang Kai withdrew his gaze and continued to search the space ring, soon finding what he was looking for: the myriad demon pill. The myriad demon pill was something unique to the demon territory and had a great effect on the demon race above the demon king. The reason why the demon race had so many high-level combatants was largely due to the myriad demon pill's role. It could even be said to have played a decisive role. Previously, Yang Kai had also found a lot of myriad demon pills on the disappeared continents, but they were all swallowed by the embodiment, allowing it to break through to the half-saint realm in a very short time. However, the path from half-saint to demon saint was a long one, and the accumulation of strength was unimaginable. In other words, it required a huge amount of myriad demon pills. Not only did the embodiment need them, Yang Kai estimated that he needed them now. Yang Kai couldn't take the myriad demon pills before because the nature of his demon chi conflicted with the myriad demon pill. But now it was different. His emperor chi had transformed into demonic chi, so the myriad demon pills should have a great effect on him. At this time, Yang Kai's of course. As a great devil saint, there was no one in the entire devil domain who could threaten her safety, so she would definitely carry anything good with her. Yang Kai didn't know how many myriad demon pills there were in Bailey Mo's space ring, but there were at least 10,000. There was no need to be polite with her, so Yang Kai simply tossed the myriad demon pills into his space ring while grumbling discontentedly. "You only have so many myriad demon pills?" Bailey Mo's expression darkened. "Is this not enough to satisfy you?" Yang Kai grinned. Who would complain about having more good things? Then he looked at her. "Are you hiding them?" "What's there to hide?" Bailey Mo was furious. "I have so many people under me. Don't I need to consume them? Don't I need to reward them every year? How many myriad demon pills do you think a demon saint can accumulate? If you don't believe me, you can ask Yu Ru Meng and see how many myriad demon pills she has." Yang Kai just smiled and didn't say anything. Since she had already said so much, he figured Bailey Mo wouldn't lie to him. More than 10,000 myriad demon pills were enough for him and the embodiment to consume for many years. Yang Kai didn't take all of them, leaving 100 for Bailey Mo. Unexpectedly, Bailey Mo chuckled and said, "If you want to make a move, then go ahead. I won't interfere in this matter." Shueli and Yu Ru Meng were both stunned and looked at her in confusion. Shueli frowned. Why? This answer was too surprising. With such a huge piece of meat in front of them, which demon saint wouldn't be jealous? Bailey Mo actually said she wouldn't interfere? Was this woman crazy? Why hadn't they noticed before? Bailey Mo said indifferently, "Because I don't want to offend Boss Huang." Shueli was even more confused. What does it have to do with Boss Huang? After saying this, he was shocked and looked around. Boss Huang is here? Why would Boss Huang be here? Bailey Mo chuckled. It's just that Boss Huang had said before that if this brat really became a member of the devil race, then he would be able to keep that opportunity. Now he already has this qualification. Shueli frowned. Isn't this boy a human? When did he become a member of the demon race? Yu Ru Meng was also confused when she heard this. Just as the two were confused, Yang Kai stepped out from behind Yu Ru Meng. As his feet landed, his body instantly surged with demonic chi, and his demonic chi soared to the sky. Shueli was extremely shocked. Yu Ru Meng also stared blankly at Yang Kai's back. Her beautiful eyes shone with the light of surprise. The scene in front of them undoubtedly showed that Yang Kai had completely become the demon race and fallen into the demonic path. Even if he really was born in the star realm and was a human, it wasn't a big deal. Only the demon race could have such pure demonic chi and activate such vigorous demonic chi. This was great news for both her and Yang Kai. Before, she was still worried about what to do if Yang Kai fell into the hands of another demon saint. Now that he was a member of the demon race, all her problems were easily solved. No one dared to not take Huang Wuji's words seriously. How is it? I should be considered a member of the demon race now, right? Yang Kai stared at Shueli and asked indifferently. Shueli's expression changed a few times. Suddenly, his divine sense surged as he sent a few words to Bailey Mo. Bailey Mo immediately sneered. You can do this kind of deceiving yourself. Don't drag me into it. I don't want to offend Boss Huang anyway. Shueli's face darkened. For the first time, he realized that Bailey Mo was actually a psychopath. He had secretly sent a message to her, but she had actually exposed him. This put him in an awkward position. How embarrassing. Shueli, what are you planning? Yu Meng shouted. Although Bailey Mo didn't say it explicitly, the meaning was obvious. Shueli probably still hadn't given up, and wanted to drag Bailey Mo along to capture Yang Kai. After all, only the three of them knew that Yang Kai had become the demon race. When the time came, Yu Meng couldn't do anything about it. Once the rice was cooked and Yang Kai's opportunity was taken away, Huang Wuji wouldn't say anything. Shueli had an embarrassed expression. I just wanted to congratulate you. I don't have any ideas. Yu Meng didn't expose him and only said coldly, there's nothing to congratulate. This is Yang Kai's opportunity. This is my cloud shadow continent, so you can go wherever you want. I will tell Boss Huang that Yang Kai has become the demon race, and let him decide the final result. Shueli nodded. Yes, we should tell him. After he finished speaking, he looked at Yang Kai with some regret, and slowly shook his head. He turned into a bloody light and soared into the sky. Bailey Mo didn't cooperate, so he couldn't do anything to Yu Meng by himself. If they really fell out, it wouldn't do him any good. Yang Kai did have a great opportunity, but it would take a long time for him to grow. In this endless flowing time, Great Emperor, he might be able to find another opportunity. Yu Meng stared in the direction he left. Chapter 3558. Bailey Mo's attitude today was really thought-provoking. With her relationship with her, it wouldn't be strange if she agreed to Shueli's request. But in reality, Bailey Mo was protecting Yang Kai at every turn. If it weren't for Bailey Mo's insistence, today's matter wouldn't have been so easily resolved. Yu Meng really couldn't understand this. What Yu Meng couldn't understand was that Bailey Mo had obviously been here for some time. But with her methods, why hadn't she made a move on Yang Kai? She didn't believe that Bailey Mo would hesitate to act just because of Huang Wuji's words. Although Huang Wuji was the strongest demon saint, Bailey Mo was also a demon saint, and not one of Huang Wuji's subordinates. So how could she be so obedient? Faintly, Yu Meng felt that today's matter was a little unusual. I don't have any ideas. Bailey Mo chuckled, her bright eyes looking at Yang Kai as she said affectionately, I just like this boy, can't I? That tender and sweet expression gave Yang Kai goosebumps. Yu Meng sneered. Is that really so? How could it be fake? Bailey Mo raised her chin and looked at Yu Meng provocatively. If you hadn't come so quickly, I'm afraid he and I would have already been together. Fine. Yu Meng opposed, waving her hand and saying, if you really want to, what's wrong with me fulfilling your wish? Right here, with the sky as your blanket and the earth as your bed. I want to see how you two will fulfill your wish. After saying this, she turned to Yang Kai and said, don't look at this woman's age. She still hasn't experienced the nourishment of a man. If you can really take her down, you'll be taking advantage of her. Yang Kai couldn't help sweating slightly, somewhat speechless. Bailey Mo retorted, you say it as if you've been nourished by a man before. The two suddenly stared at each other, not wanting to give in. Under the collision of the demon saint's auras, even the heavens and earth changed color. However, Bailey Mo was injured after all, so she was somewhat at a disadvantage in such a competition of auras. After a while, her face turned slightly pale, and she waved her sleeve, blocking Yu Meng's line of sight, and coldly snorted. Today's matter, you owe me a favor. I'll settle this account with you another day. After saying this, she turned around and left. If she didn't, he wouldn't allow her to break the brand he had planted in her knowledge sea. Although the brand couldn't control her knowledge as brand's knowledge sea. It's the brand. SSSSS. T. SSSS brand B's. STS teat. B. S. When? TSSS A's. When? When was his his's when he T. S when? Yu Rumeng stood in place and pondered for a long time before turning to look at Yang Kai, frowning. What did that woman do to you? Yang Kai shook his head and said, Nothing. Then why is she injured? Who hurt her? I don't know, she was already like that when she came. Yu Rumeng stared at him deeply, as if she wanted to see into the depths of his heart. Yang Kai also looked at her calmly. After a while, Yu Rumeng sighed and stepped forward, holding Yang Kai's hand, and said softly, Don't worry, I'm here, no one can do anything to you. Yang Kai held her hand and smiled. I'm not worried, but you. I've caused you a lot of trouble this time. Before he could finish, Yu Rumeng covered his mouth with her hand, her watery eyes staring at him, her red lips slightly open. Between you and me, is there a need to say these things? For eyes looked at each other for a moment. Then Yang Kai leaned down and kissed her. Yu Rumeng's eyelashes trembled twice, and she slowly closed her eyes. Her arms wrapped around Yang Kai's neck, and her full breasts were pressed against Yang Kai's chest, deforming a little. After a long time their lips parted. Yang Kai held Yu Rumeng by the waist, and said in a low voice, Return to the palace. When the embodiment hiding underground thought, Yang Kai's vision blurred, and he returned to the palace in Cloud Shadow City with Yu Rumeng. Inside the palace, many demon kings were deeply worried. The change in the Eternal Heaven continent was really unexpected. No one had expected that the 12 demon saints' plan, hundreds of half-saints' participation in the battle, more than a dozen half-saints' deaths, and nearly 100 million people's deaths in the demon race, would actually be their king. If it was an ordinary opportunity, it would have been fine, but it was an opportunity that even a half-saint would fight for. It was an opportunity that even a demon saint couldn't ignore. How could it be so easy to protect? Being chased by all the demon saint and half-saints' combined forces, how could their king survive? Among them, the ones with the most worried faces were the 3 high-ranked demon kings of the Blue Origin continent. It couldn't be helped, as Tu Qiaoluo, Baza, and Guli had handed over their divine soul imprints, and had gone through life and death with Yang Kai. If something happened to Yang Kai, the 3 of them wouldn't be spared either. After retreating from the Eternal Heaven continent and returning to Cloud Shadow, the 3 of them had been worried every day. They prayed more sincerely than anyone else that Yang Kai would be safe and sound. Today, Carson, Lao Ku, and the others had gathered with the 3 of them, not to monitor them, but to determine whether Yang Kai was alive or dead through their condition. If they suddenly died, it meant that Yang Kai had met with misfortune. If they were alive and well, it meant that Yang Kai was also safe and sound. The main hall was silent for a long time, and was shrouded in a heavy atmosphere. It was at this time that a strange energy fluctuation suddenly came from outside. The group of demon kings raised their heads and looked over. In the next moment, they all stood up and looked at the figure striding in from outside with incomparable shock. Everyone's eyes were wide open. Lao Ke even rubbed his eyes hard, fearing that he was hallucinating. My king! The 3 demon kings of the Blue Origin continent rushed over together, with indescribably excited faces. They cupped their hands and said, You've returned. Only then did Lao Ku and the others react, and hurriedly stepped forward to greet him. But soon, the group of demon kings saw Yu Rumeng in Yang Kai's arms. They couldn't help but swallow their saliva and lower their eyes. Yang Kai looked around and said with a faint smile, You've all returned. And this king is fine, so you can go do what you need to do. After saying that, he directly passed through the main hall, and walked toward the rear hall, leaving behind a group of high-ranked demon kings looking at each other in confusion. Wasn't their king being chased by a demon saint and a half-saint? How could he still be in the mood to relax? At the back of the crowd, a pair of empty eyes that seemed to have lost their souls stared at Yang Kai's back, and a cold light gradually appeared in them. In the side room, Yang Kai threw Yu Rumeng on the bed. Under Yu Rumeng's surprised gaze, he directly pounced on her, and pressed her under his body. While holding the back of Yu Rumeng's head with one hand, he had already kissed her again. His other hand skillfully climbed up the gap between her lower abdomen and her clothes, and grasped a soft and elastic lump of fullness. Yu Rumeng wanted to speak several times, but was blocked by Yang Kai's heavy breathing. Gradually, A warm current surged from her heart and lower abdomen, making Yu Meng somewhat confused. With a tearing sound, her clothes were torn, and she was casually thrown off the bed by Yang Kai. Not long after, a perfect naked body was exposed to the air. The pure white luster was like the most exquisite porcelain. The skin was so delicate that it could be broken by a blow. The flat lower abdomen didn't have the slightest bit of excess fat. The slender beautiful legs unconsciously entangled together, and one hand covered the most private place slightly shy. Yu Meng's neck was faintly red, and her delicate earlobes were also dark red. Her pair of beautiful eyes were like a disturbed pool of water, and her breathing was rapid. Yang Kai's clothes were also quickly turned into a pile of fragments. Their hot bodies were entangled together, and they could feel each other's violent heartbeat. Without too much foreplay, when Yang Kai leaned down, a jade hand blocked his chest, stopping Yang Kai's attack. Yu Meng looked at him with blurred eyes, and there was a trace of unclear pleading in her eyes. For eyes met. Yang Kai's face was calm, but Yu Meng could feel his toughness and determination. This was something that had never happened before. In the past, she and Yang Kai had been honest with each other, but each time there was no real progress, because each time she controlled her emotions at the last moment. But this time, it was obviously different from before. She couldn't tell what the difference was, but she felt that if this time it was the same as before, she might lose something. After a long time, Yu Meng sighed slightly and slowly withdrew the jade hand in front of Yang Kai's chest. She turned her head slightly and closed her eyes. Yang Kai didn't hesitate at all and entered. In an instant, he felt himself being wrapped in a warm and moist feeling. When the moaning sound came out, Yu Meng bit her red lips and clenched her fists on the bed sheet. Yang Kai clearly felt a chill rising from his lower abdomen and rushing straight to his mind. In an instant it shook his knowledge sea, almost making him faint at this moment. He quickly stabilized his mind, but there was still a lingering fear on his face. The shaking in his knowledge sea didn't stop, but instead became more violent. However, the soul-warming lotus was suppressed in his knowledge sea, so he didn't have to worry about any accidents happening to his soul. At this moment, a huge force exploded in his knowledge sea, filling the world of his knowledge sea, making Yang Kai feel that his soul strength was growing at a terrifying speed. This kind of growth was almost without end, as if it was going to explode his entire knowledge sea. This gave Yang Kai a fright. A murmur sounded in his ears. Yang Kai looked down and saw a drop of tear hanging from the corner of Yu Meng's eyes, but she was smiling. Her red lips squirmed, and when her pearly white teeth opened, strange syllables were spat out from her red lips, playing a wonderful sound of nature. The sound seemed to have a magical power, turning into an invisible hand that gently stroked his knowledge sea, slowly stabilizing its turbulence. His knowledge sea was still expanding, and the surge of soul strength made Yang Kai dumbfounded. But with the help of Yu Meng's sound of nature, Yang Kai gradually calmed down and slowly felt the strength of his soul strength increase. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.